Chapter 934. The deterrence of the five heavenly sovereigns Qing Su and Demon Dao both stood up at the same time and raised their heads slightly. They both noticed Zhuowen, who had risen to the sky. Zhuowen actually came out to seek death. Qing Su narrowed his eyes and asked doubtfully. Logically speaking, with two heavenly sovereigns here, Zhuowen should have dodged in time. Instead, he took the initiative to provoke them, which really puzzled Qing Su. Since this kid wants to die, I'll fulfill his wish. A surge of demonic aura gushed out as Demon Dao took a step forward and turned into a black shadow that flew towards Zhuowen. Qing Su's eyes flickered as he followed closely behind. Swoosh! 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 Qing Su and Demon Dao stopped side by side a few dozen meters in front of Zhuowen. Their eyes flickered with a cold light. You've got guts to provoke us in public. Before I kill you, I want to ask you, were you the one who crippled Moing? Demon Dao said with surging killing intent with his hands behind his back. Zhuowen was as calm as water as he said, he's just a piece of trash. Is it wrong to cripple him? The moment these words came out, Demon Daoist was stunned. The killing intent in his eyes surged even more violently. This Zhuowen was truly audacious. He actually dared to call the number one genius of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, Missouri Ying, trash in front of him. The appearance of Qing Su and Demon Dao immediately attracted the attention of all the cultivators below. They really came. What kind of status does this Zhuowen have? With just a shout, Demon Daoist and Qing Su, these two magnates actually came for him. I'm afraid it's because of the previous battle. It's said that the number one genius of Heaven Peak Devil Palace, Missouri Ying, was completely crippled by this Zhuowen. Also, Zui Qingfeng was beaten to the point of fleeing. These two should be here for revenge. Everyone in Yen City lifted their heads to look at the distant confrontation between Zhuowen, Qing Shuzi and Demon Daozi as they discussed animatedly. Although Zhuowen had displayed his invincible might back then and even had the support of a heavenly sovereign servant, it was only natural that he would be able to do so. However, Master Demon and Master Qing Su were both Empyrean realm martial artists. Moreover, they weren't ordinary Empyrean realm martial artists. So what if this Zhuowen had an Empyrean servant behind him? If Qing Su and Demon Daoist were to join forces, Zhuowen's fate would be bleak. Therefore, the majority of the people looked at Zhuowen with a trace of pity. This kid was definitely going to be unlucky. Where is your Empyrean servant? Hurry up and let me out. Otherwise, I'll kill you right away. Master Demon stomped his foot and a terrifying demonic aura gushed out. Dark clouds gathered above his head. These dark clouds slowly descended and turned into a spiral behind Master Demon. It looked extremely strange. Oh. You want my Empyrean servant to come out? A strange smile appeared on Zhuowen's face. Master Demon clasped his hands behind his back, his eyes filled with arrogance. He entered the Dao through the demonic path and possessed the combat strength of a powerhouse. Although his cultivation was only at the initial stage of the Empyrean realm, his strength was comparable to a peak Empyrean. Even Qing Shuzi wasn't his match. Thus, when facing an ordinary Empyrean martial artist, Master Demon Daoist didn't fear him at all. As long as he could tie down Zhuowen's Empyrean servant, Master Demon Daoist would be able to capture this brat. At that time, all of Zhuowen's benefits would be equally divided between the two of them. In that case, let them come out. Zhuowen said indifferently as he waved his right hand. Immediately, 5 terrifying auras soared into the sky from the inn below. When Zhuowen said this, Qing Shuzi already had a bad premonition. This was because Zhuowen was talking about them and not him. From the information from the last battle, this Zhuowen clearly only had one Empyrean servant by his side, but now he was using them. Qing Shuzi thought about how Zhuowen had suddenly gone crazy and taken the initiative to provoke the two of them. The ominous feeling in his heart became even stronger. It wasn't until 5 terrifying auras erupted from below the inn that Qing Shuzi's heart began to race. These 5 auras are the auras of Empyrean realm martial artists. Qing Shuzi was stunned and lost his composure as he cried out in alarm. Master Demon's expression stiffened and the arrogance in his eyes vanished. His pupils shrank as he stared at the 5 auras erupting from an inconspicuous room below. These 5 auras were very powerful. One of them had even reached the peak of the Empyrean realm. Swoosh! 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 5 figures suddenly soared into the sky. Their terrifying auras turned into gusts of wind that revolved around the 5 figures. In an instant, the 5 of them arrived behind Zhuowen. Their heads were slightly lowered as if they were following Zhuowen's lead. These 5 people were Xiang Tianzuan, Empyrean Master White Brow, Empyrean Master Guanghan, Empyrean Master Huang Jiao, and Empyrean Master Shiyu. Zhuowen had planned this a long time ago. He wanted to intimidate the entire Yan city and let everyone know that he, Zhuowen, was not a pushover. Therefore, this time, Zhuowen wanted to establish his might. And the target of his might was Qing Shuzi and Master Demon. Heavens! 5 Empyreans. One of them has such a terrifying aura. I'm afraid he has already reached the peak of the Empyrean realm. Could it be that these 5 Empyreans are Zhuowen's servants? Quickly give me a punch and see if I'm dreaming. The many martial warriors below first fell into silence. After regaining their senses, waves of uproar broke out. Their voices were filled with disbelief. In addition to the 5 Empyreans, Master Demon and Qing Shuzi, 7 Empyreans had appeared in the sky above Yan City. So many Empyreans had gathered together. This was something that had never happened in Yan City before. Therefore, more and more practitioners gathered in Yan City. Other than the Shaoyan clan, the other 3 great clans had also sent their own practitioners to observe. Among them was Wu Zongxing from the Wu clan. It is indeed him. Wu Zongxing's gaze froze as his entire body turned ice cold. He had instantly recognized the youth surrounded by the 5 Empyreans. Wasn't he Zhuowen, whom they had wanted to capture last night? Fortunately, Zhuowen had not made a big move last night. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. After all, the former had 5 Empyreans behind him. Such a faction had already surpassed the 4 super factions of Yan City and was approaching the royal clan. If he wanted to destroy their Wu clan, it would only be a matter of hooking his finger. In the future, you must not offend Zhuowen. Otherwise, you will be dealt with according to the clan rules. Wu Zongxing instructed the group of practitioners behind him. Besides Wu Zongxing, the other practitioners from the other factions who had arrived were all shocked. One after another, they instructed the practitioners from their factions not to offend Zhuowen if they saw him in the future. Among the numerous practitioners, there were 3 figures with the most complicated gazes. The leader of the 3 was a one-armed middle-aged man. Beside him were 2 young women. One of them had an ice-cold expression while the other was cultured and refined. Father. This is the true faction behind Zhuowen. The 5 Empyreans. The cultured and refined woman softly sighed. The one-armed middle-aged man's body trembled as a trace of regret surfaced in his eyes. He hesitated as he said, Lingyu. With such a powerful faction behind little brother Zhua, it should be easy to revive our Wan clan. What do you think? Before the middle-aged man could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the woman, Father. Have you forgotten how you treated young Master Zhua back then? In any case, I won't make this request to young Master Zhua because it's too much. The 3 of them were Wan Xianfeng, Wan Lingyu, and Leng Ying from the Wan clan. Ever since Xiaoyan Qinglin had caused a ruckus in the Ruan clan, almost all of the younger generation of the Ruan clan had died. Many of the Ruan clan's external practitioners had left to join the Ruan clan. Now, only the 3 of them were left in the Ruan clan. Speaking of which, the Ruan clan used to be considered a mid-tier clan in Yan City. Who would have thought that they would end up like this? It was lamentable. In fact, if the Ruan clan had treated Zhuowen well back then, perhaps Zhuowen would have helped the Ruan clan out of consideration for their old friendship. Unfortunately, both Wan Xianfeng and Leng Feng had chosen to join the Shaoyan clan. Leng Feng had even helped the Shaoyan clan deal with Zhuowen. Thus, Zhuowen naturally had no obligation to help the Ruan clan, let alone revive the Ruan clan. Leng Ying, who was standing at the side, had a complicated look in her eyes. Especially when she saw the young man surrounded by the 5 heavenly venerables, traces of regret filled her face. Back then, she had always thought that Zhuowen was a good-for-nothing with no background behind him. However, everything that had happened afterward had slapped her hard in the face. She had been way too wrong. Not only was Zhuowen's cultivation at the Supremacy Realm, but he also had the protection of 5 heavenly venerables. His glory was no less than that of the imperial family's prince, Mo Lingtian. In the face of such a peerless monster, she had actually blindly mocked and ridiculed him. She had even encouraged her father, Leng Feng, to deal with Zhuowen. Thinking of her previous actions, Leng Ying suddenly felt that she was really laughable. She was just like a clown. Qing Shuzi and Demon Daozi's expressions were extremely ugly. They had never expected that 5 heavenly venerables would suddenly appear by Zhuowen's side. One of them was even a terrifying peak heavenly venerate. "Do the two of you still want to capture me?" Zhuowen asked unhurriedly. The corner of Qing Shuzi's mouth twitched. He suddenly smiled and said, "Zhuo Xiaoyu, it seems like all of this is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? A misunderstanding? You may think it's a misunderstanding, but I don't think so." Zhuowen smiled coldly. He then waved his right hand and said, "Kill them. Don't hold back." After saying that, the 5 heavenly venerables instantly rushed out and attacked Qing Shuzi and Demon Daozi. Their terrifying heavenly venerate auras were completely revealed and exploded in the sky. Lunatic. Qing Shuzi's face turned purple. A jade-colored leaf appeared in his hand. He pinched it, and his entire body seemed to have teleported away. He didn't want to face 5 heavenly venerables. This was simply a situation of certain death. Teleportation again. Zhuowen glanced at Qing Shuzi, who had teleported away, and frowned. Zui Qingfeng had also used that jade-colored leaf before. It seemed like the people of Qing Su Valley had a unique way of escaping. Chapter 935. Demon Daoist submits. At this moment, Demon Daoist's face was extremely gloomy. He was cursing Qing Shuzi in his heart for running away as soon as he saw that the situation was bad. The jade-colored leaf in Qing Shuzi's hand was called Wind, controlling 9 autumns. There was a miniature teleportation array in the leaf. By crushing it, one could teleport thousands of miles away. This wind controlling 9 autumns was left behind by the founder of the Clear Void Valley. There weren't many of them, so each one was one less. In the Clear Void Valley, only the upper echelons of the Clear Void Valley and the genius disciple Zui Qingfeng could use wind controlling 9 autumns. Therefore, although Qing Shuzi wasn't strong, he was the most difficult person to kill in the Empyrean realm. Taking a deep breath, Demon Daoist's body surged with demonic energy. His eyes became pitch black and deep. Since he entered the Dao as a demon, he couldn't retreat. Once he retreated, his Dao heart would become unstable. Moreover, with 5 Empyreans joining forces, even if Demon Daoist wanted to escape, he couldn't. He could only fight. Kill. Demon Daoist held a demonic longsword in his hand. Then, he took a step forward and demonic energy surged around him. He slashed with his sword and countless black sword shadows appeared in the void. They were like countless phantoms that carried out an assassination. Xiang Tianzuan coldly snorted. He formed a seal with both hands and a blazing Xiang slowly rose from behind him. The dazzling purple light illuminated the entire void, causing the black sword shadows hidden in the void to have nowhere to hide. Black Demon Slash. Demon Daoist's eyes were cold. He changed his sword stance and the countless sword shadows turned into countless ferocious demonic shadows that wrapped around Xiang. The monstrous demonic energy actually suppressed Xiang. Whoosh! Demon Daoist easily shuttled through the countless demonic shadows and instantly arrived in front of Xiang. He slashed with his sword and the countless demonic shadows went crazy, releasing a terrifying demonic energy. Boom! Xiang became dimmer and dimmer under this attack. Xiang Tianzuan narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. Second Xiang overturning heaven and earth. As he spoke, an even more dazzling Xiang rose into the air. The two Xiang blazing suns began to revolve fiercely, erupting with terrifying heat and power. Boom! Boom! In an instant, all of the surrounding demonic shadows vanished beneath Xiang's light, turning into endless black gas. As for a purple energy, it was like 10,000 sword lights that shot towards Master Demon. Devil Sect. Master Demon's eyes were still cold. With a slash of the demonic sword, the surrounding demonic energy surged and formed a huge demonic shadow that blocked in front of him. Bang bang bang. The tens of thousands of Xiang beams slammed into the demonic silhouette, creating a deafening explosion that tore the demonic silhouette to shreds. Whoosh! Master Demon's eyes finally darkened. He retreated again and again, constantly waving the demonic sword in his right hand to block the incoming Xiang beams as he retreated. Xiang Tianzuan's strength had somewhat exceeded his expectations. Although he had entered the demonic path and obtained strength that far surpassed that of an ordinary Empyrean, even having strength comparable to a peak Empyrean. But even though they were both peak Empyrean, Xiang Tianzuan was not an ordinary Empyrean. His strength was similar to Lu Hantian's, and his talent could be considered top-notch. The strength he could display was much stronger than a peak Empyrean. Even though Master Demon's cultivation method was heaven-defying and his strength was extremely outstanding, when he truly collided with a peak Empyrean powerhouse like Xiang Tianzuan, he was undoubtedly at a disadvantage. Whoosh! Xiang Tianzuan arrived in an instant. His right palm thrust out and the power of Xiang poured out. It was as if countless Xiang beams had appeared in his palm, giving Master Demon a feeling that he was unable to resist. Demon slaughter! Master Demon roared. The demonic aura on his body was pitch black and deep to the extreme. His pupils became incomparably dark, and the demonic aura on his body became extremely rich. It was as if Master Demon had turned into a heinous demon at this moment. Kill! Master Demon roared. He waved his right hand, and the demonic sword in his hand split into two into three, until it split into 10 demonic swords with surging demonic aura that surrounded Master Demon. The 10 demonic swords slashed out at the same time, instantly breaking apart Xiang Tianzuan's palm that had transformed into countless Xiang beams. Xiang Tianzuan was even forced back by this demonic power, and his expression turned solemn. Entering the demonic path and grasping the power of the demonic path, he can actually display such terrifying strength. This Master Demon is really not simple. Looking at Master Demon's battle prowess that wasn't any weaker than Xiang Tianzuan, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. Back then, he used the blood inheritance seal to force himself into the demonic path, and he almost couldn't extricate himself from it. However, Master Demon took a different path. He entered the demonic path and grasped the power of the demonic path to display powerful strength. Zhuowen knew that if he could also grasp Master Demon's demonic path, then he might be able to completely grasp the power of the Blood Demon's demonic path. Thinking of the powerful strength that Master Demon displayed after entering the demonic path, Zhuowen couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. The 5 of you attacked together. Zhuowen didn't speak nonsense. Whether it was the entrance exam of Jia Shin College or the demonic path, they all needed to be obtained from Master Demon. Now, he had to make Master Demon yield first. When the other 4 Empyreans heard this, they also didn't speak nonsense. They followed closely behind Xiang Tianzuan, each using their own attacks to deal with Master Demon. Although Master Demon, who grasped the demonic path, was very strong, he was at most comparable to Xiang Tianzuan. Now that the other 4 Empyreans joined in, even if Master Demon had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would be difficult for him to resist. Puchi! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Master Demon retreated. Under the joint attack of the 5 Empyreans, this was the first time he was injured and spat out blood. The aura on his body also became extremely weak, and his vision became blurry. Whoosh! 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 The 5 Empyreans instantly surrounded Master Demon, whose aura was unstable. Then, Zhuowen slowly descended in front of Master Demon. I really didn't expect that a mere junior like you would have 5 Empyrean slaves by your side. This time, I didn't lose unjustly. However, you can't kill me in Yen City. Once you kill me, His Majesty, the Flame Emperor, will act. So what if you have 5 Empyreans? Once an Emperor Realm expert acts, you will die without a doubt. Master Demon's eyes were filled with fear. Although the young man before him was much weaker than him, the trump cards in his hands were too powerful. They were so powerful that even he felt that it was inconceivable. I know. That's why I don't intend to kill you. Instead, I want to make a deal with you. Zhuowen nodded as the corners of his mouth curled up. A deal? Master Demon's face was astonished. He didn't expect that Zhuowen, who had 5 Empyrean slaves, actually didn't intend to kill him. Instead, he proposed a deal. What deal? Master Demon asked in a deep voice. I intend to join your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. Zhuowen's unhurried voice rang out, but it caused Master Demon to freeze on the spot as if he had been electrocuted. He even thought that he had misheard. The young man in front of him, who had 5 Empyrean slaves, actually intended to join their Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. Master Demon even began to suspect that there was something wrong with his ears. You want to join the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace? Then you definitely have a request, right? Demon Daoist came back to his senses and said coldly. Of course. I, Zhuowen, will join your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace in order to replace that trash, Mo Ying. My request is for you to give me Mo Ying's spot to participate in the Divine Academy's entrance exam. I will participate in the exam on behalf of your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. Zhuowen's expression was calm as he continued, don't think about refusing. With my strength and talent, I'm many times stronger than Mo Ying. Therefore, my chances of successfully entering the Divine Academy's outer court are much higher than Mo Ying's. At the same time, it will also increase the reputation of your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. This is a win-win situation. Master Demon's eyes flickered. In fact, he was already tempted. After Mo Ying was crippled, he was a little worried that it would affect the results of the Divine Academy's entrance exam. After all, Mo Ying was the #1 genius of their Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. His strength had also reached the Xuanzuan realm, so his chances of successfully passing the Divine Academy's entrance exam were much higher. However, now that he was dead, it would be difficult to find another genius like him. If all the geniuses of the other 4 superpowers were selected and only their Heavenly Peak Devil Palace's genius was not, then their Heavenly Peak Devil Palace's influence in Yen City would be much lower than the other 4 superpowers. Master Demon agreed with Zhuowen's request. Zhuowen's talent and strength were absolutely top-notch. This child was probably comparable to the imperial family's prince, Mo Lingtian. His chances of successfully entering the Divine Academy were very high. However, Master Demon knew that Zhuowen wouldn't only have this one request. Therefore, he asked, you should have other conditions, right? Zhuowen smiled and said, of course. After I join your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, you must teach me the secret technique to enter the Tao through the devil. This is the only condition. Oh. You want the secret technique to enter the Tao through the devil? Master Demon's face was gloomy. Entering the Tao through the devil was a powerful secret technique that Master Demon had figured out himself. The reason why he was able to rise up so quickly in just a few decades was mainly because of this secret technique that he had created. It could be said that this secret technique was the most precious thing on his body. He hadn't even taught it to Mo Ying. Now that Zhuowen had opened his mouth and wanted him to teach it to him, Master Demon began to hesitate. What? You're not willing. Although I won't kill you in Yen City, I can imprison you. Then, I can go to the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and slaughter everyone there, destroying the forces you've cultivated for so many years. Don't doubt my words. I will do as I say. Zhuowen's killing intent surged. Master Demon's face turned cold and his eyes flickered. Finally, he sighed and said, I agree to your condition. Right now, the situation was stronger than the person. In front of Zhuowen, who had 5 Empyrean servants, Master Demon knew that he had no choice but to lower his head. Seeing Master Demon agree, Zhuowen revealed a brilliant smile. He waved his right hand and the 5 Empyreans respectfully stood behind him. How long until the entrance exam begins? Zhuowen lightly asked. Not long, about 2 months. Demon Taoist obediently replied. Chapter 936. 9 Autumn's Wind. Master Demon didn't hesitate in his actions. Since they had already reached an agreement, he agreed very straightforwardly. This saved Zhuowen a lot of time. Master Demon. What is that jade-colored leaf that Qing Shuzi used just now? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Master Demon was startled for a moment before he coldly snorted, that leaf is called 9 Autumn's Wind. It contains a miniature teleportation array that can instantly teleport a person 1,000 miles away. It is a life-saving treasure left behind by the founder of Clear Void Valley. Master Demon became angrier the more he thought about Qing Shuzi, who escaped so quickly. If Qing Shuzi didn't escape and stayed behind, the 2 of them might have been able to block the attacks of the 5 Empyreans. Unfortunately, Qing Shuzi was too cowardly. When he saw that the situation wasn't good, he immediately fled, causing Master Demon to fall into such an embarrassing situation. 9 Autumn's Wind. How many of these treasures does Qing Shuzi have? Zhuowen asked with a smile on his face. Qing Shuzi shouldn't have many either. I don't think he has more than 5. After all, these things are gone with each use. Although the founder of Clear Void Valley left behind many 9 Autumn's Wind, after so many years of use, these things are becoming rarer and rarer in Clear Void Valley. Master Demon seemed to have thought of something as he stared at Zhuowen with a strange expression. Could it be that you plan to, hee. This old thing is full of evil tricks. If I don't make him pay a price, it won't make sense. I'll have to trouble you to bring me to Clear Void Valley. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. His meaning was clear. He was going to Clear Void Valley to rob Qing Shuzi. All right. This Qing Shuzi is the most hypocritical person. Moreover, he prioritizes benefits above all else. He's really annoying. This time, we should make him bleed. Master Demon nodded, agreeing with Zhuowen's idea. The 2 of them chatted for a while. Just as they were about to set off, a voice suddenly came from the crowd below. Little brother Zhuo. Wait a moment. This voice was very loud and attracted the attention of many people in Yen City. After the earlier commotion, most of the surrounding cultivators naturally knew of Zhuowen's name. With 5 Empyrean servants, Zhuowen had scared away Master Qing Su and defeated Master Demon Dao. Without a doubt, Zhuowen's name would once again shake the entire Yen City. In the hearts of these Yen City residents, Zhuowen would undoubtedly become a god. But now, someone had openly called Zhuowen little brother Zhuowen. Moreover, his voice did not hold back at all. It was very obvious that this person was rather familiar with Zhuowen, so it naturally attracted the attention of many people. A one-armed middle-aged man walked out from the crowd with 2 young women. He had a flattering smile on his face as he looked up at Zhuowen, who was floating in the air. He's only at the ultimate 9th Will Emperor realm. With such a low cultivation, how did he get to know Zhuowen? Seeing that the one-armed middle-aged man and the 2 women behind him did not have a strong aura, the surrounding cultivators were puzzled. Zhuowen was a supreme being at such a young age, and he had 5 Empyrean servants by his side. To the majority of the cultivators, this was a big shot. In fact, his status far surpassed demon Taoist and Qing Su's status in the hearts of the cultivators. How did such an existence get to know a man who was only at the ultimate ninth will emperor realm, and one who had lost an arm? Therefore, there was a trace of confusion in everyone's eyes. The one-armed middle-aged man was the Ruan family head, Ruan Xianfeng. The two women behind Ruan Xianfeng were Ruan Lingyu and Leng Ying. Ruan Lingyu's pretty face was full of reluctance. She had been dragged out by Ruan Xianfeng. Even she did not expect Ruan Xianfeng to stand up at this moment. Zhuowen stared at Ruan Xianfeng indifferently and said indifferently, "I wonder why the Ruan family head has called me over?" As soon as these words were spoken, the gazes of the surrounding people towards Ruan Xianfeng changed. There was admiration, astonishment, envy, and jealousy. What kind of existence was Zhuowen? In a sense, he was even more terrifying than demon Taoist and Qing Su. Ruan Xianfeng actually knew Zhuowen. It seemed that the Ruan family was going to prosper. Many cultivators from the surrounding forces were secretly plotting how to build a good relationship with Ruan Xianfeng. Naturally, Ruan Xianfeng also noticed the surrounding gazes. The smile on his face became even brighter. He quickly said, "Ever since Brother Zhuo left the Ruan family, my daughter, Lingyu, has missed you very much, so, father." Ruan Lingyu's pretty face changed slightly. There was anger in her beautiful eyes. Ruan Xianfeng was really going too far. What did he think of her as his daughter? In the beginning, in order to climb up the Shaoyan aristocratic family, Ruan Xianfeng tried to curry favor with Shaoyan Pu. Now that he saw that Zhuowen actually had such a terrifying force behind him, he actually pushed her out. Ruan Lingyu suddenly felt that living in the Ruan family was a little sad. She was actually treated like an object by her biological father. This feeling made Ruan Lingyu's heart turn to ashes. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He naturally saw the sadness in Ruan Lingyu's beautiful eyes. In addition to Ruan Xuanfeng's ugly face, how could he not know the reason behind it? And then? Zhuowen replied indifferently. Zhuowen's indifferent attitude made Ruan Xuanfeng's face freeze. However, he still smiled and said, "Back then, Brother Zhuo annihilated the Shaoyan aristocratic family in anger for my daughter. I also know Brother Zhuo's intentions, so I'm prepared to hand my daughter over to Brother Zhuo." As soon as these words came out, it caused an uproar. Everyone present naturally knew that the annihilation of the Shaoyan aristocratic family was related to this Zhuowen. There were even rumors that the Shaoyan aristocratic family was annihilated by this Zhuowen. As for why Zhuowen annihilated the Shaoyan aristocratic family, there had always been many disputes in Yan City. Now that Ruan Xianfeng said this, the truth was revealed. This Zhuowen actually annihilated the Shaoyan aristocratic family in anger because of the Ruan aristocratic family's daughter. Zhuowen suddenly smiled, but his smile was cold and heartless. This Ruan Xianfeng was really shameless. Could it be that he had completely forgotten how he treated Zhuowen in the Ruan family? Zhuowen's gaze directly ignored Ruan Xianfeng and landed on Ruan Lingyu. He said, "Miss Lingyu. Zhuowen, thank you for saving my life back then. The debt of saving my life is as heavy as a mountain. Zhuowen, will never forget it. How about this, you follow me to join the Heaven Peak Devil Palace. I will let Master Demon give you the best cultivation resources." As he spoke, Zhuowen waved his right hand. A surge of origin energy gushed out and lifted Ruan Lingyu, who was behind Ruan Xianfeng, to his side. "Young Master Zhuo. This wasn't my intention. It was all my father's own decision. I didn't know beforehand," Ruan Lingyu said apologetically as she came to Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen's actions naturally caused an uproar and made many warriors cautious. At the same time, many of them made up their minds that they would never provoke the Ruan family in the future. After all, this family had established a relationship with Zhuowen. Ruan Xianfeng was extremely excited. He actually shamelessly brought Leng Ying and planned to come to Zhuowen's side. Scram! Did I allow the two of you to follow me? Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. When he saw that Wan Xianfeng actually wanted to come over, Zhuowen didn't hold back. Wan Xuanfeng's expression froze. He immediately forced a smile and said, "Little brother Zhuo, I'm Lingyu's father. Since she has joined the Heaven Peak Devil Palace, we naturally have to accompany her." However, before Wan Xianfeng could finish his words, a bloody light flashed past his side. His only remaining arm was actually broken, and blood spurted out wildly. The bloody light was too fast. Wan Xianfeng didn't even realize that his only remaining arm was broken. After that, a piercing pain spread throughout his body. Wan Xianfeng screamed in pain. "Don't test my patience. If I tell you to scram, then scram. I, Zhuowen, have said that I don't owe your Wan family. If I owe anything, it's Miss Lingyu. If you, Wan Xianfeng, didn't take the initiative to go against me, Zhuowen, to curry favor with the Shaoyan aristocratic family, perhaps I would still help your Wan family. Unfortunately, you wanted to kill me for the sake of the Shaoyan aristocratic family. Now that the Shaoyan aristocratic family has been destroyed, you want to obtain my help. Do you want me, Zhuowen, to let bygones be bygones and be tricked by you? Or do you think that I, Zhuowen, am as gullible as a 3-year-old child?" Zhuowen's voice resounded in the open space like thunder, causing Wan Xianfeng and Leng Ying's faces to turn incomparably pale. They didn't expect Zhuowen to be so ruthless, or to be so clear about gratitude and grudges. The surrounding cultivators were also stunned by Zhuowen's sudden action. Soon after, they all looked at Wan Xianfeng with a strange expression. From Zhuowen's words, it seemed that Wan Xianfeng had gone against Zhuowen in order to curry favor with the Shaoyan aristocratic family, and even wanted to kill Zhuowen. How foolish was that? It was no wonder that Zhuowen wouldn't hesitate to make a move. Wan Lingyu's beautiful eyes were complicated, but she didn't stop Zhuowen's action. After Wan Xianfeng had used her for many transactions, Wan Lingyu didn't have much affection for her father. In the end, she was just a bargaining chip in her father's eyes that could revive the family. "Yes, yes. We'll leave now." Enduring the excruciating pain, Wan Xianfeng left the place with Leng Yu with a dejected expression. Soon, they disappeared into the crowd. Perhaps Wan Xianfeng didn't expect things to develop in this direction. If he knew, he wouldn't have stood out so shamelessly. "Young Master Zhuo." Wan Lingyu suddenly stopped talking. Zhuowen faintly smiled and said, "Don't think too much about it. In the future, properly cultivate in the Heaven Peak Devil Palace. You have an extreme Yin body that was born in the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. You have a unique talent, and the Heaven Peak Devil Palace is actually very suitable for you. This little girl has an extreme Yin body." The demon Taoist stared at Wan Lingyu in astonishment. His indifferent face was moved. "Yes." Wan Lingyu nodded and said somewhat nervously. The demon Taoist was an overlord in Yen City. In her eyes, he was an unreachable existence. Naturally, she was quite nervous. "Little girl. Are you willing to become my direct disciple?" The demon Taoist's eyes flickered as he suddenly asked. Wan Lingyu was startled. She didn't expect the demon Taoist to accept her as his direct disciple. She stammered and couldn't speak. Chapter 937. Robbery Demon Dao was only in his 30s, yet he was able to become one of the 5 overlords of Yen City. Moreover, he had created a secret technique that allowed one to enter the Dao through the devil. His battle strength was terrifying and he could be said to be a genuine genius. In Zhuowen's opinion, Demon Dao's talent was much stronger than Lu Hantian's. After all, Demon Dao was still so young and it shouldn't be difficult for him to reach the Emperor realm. His future was definitely limitless. If Wan Lingyu became Demon Dao's direct disciple, her future would be very great. Therefore, Zhuowen was quite relieved to hand Wan Lingyu over to Demon Dao. Hearing Zhuowen's agreement, Wan Lingyu lightly nodded. However, There was a trace of sadness in her beautiful eyes. In fact, she wanted to say that she wanted to follow by Zhuowen's side. Since Zhuowen said so, Wan Lingyu also knew that it wasn't possible for her to follow by Zhuowen's side. Let's go. Let's go to the Clear Void Valley to collect some interest first. After saying that, Zhuowen's gaze turned towards Demon Dao. The latter nodded and said, "Follow me. The Clear Void Valley isn't far from Yen City." After saying that, Demon Dao led them out of Yen City, leaving behind many cultivators in Yen City sighing with regret. A few thousand miles south of Yen City, there was a huge valley. The valley was surrounded by layers of mountains. Around the mountains, strands of milky white mist filled the air, faintly concealing the huge valley. A green figure instantly arrived at the entrance of the valley. This person was an old man with white hair and a beard. He had a sage-like demeanor. It was Qing Su, who had miserably escaped from Yen City. Qing Su's face was extremely gloomy. He didn't expect that Zhuowen would actually have 5 heavenly sovereign servants. This was an extremely terrifying force. Fortunately, he had a treasure like the Wind Imperial 9 Autumns to escape. Otherwise, he would have been left behind in Yen City forever. It's really like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. However, Demon Dao is probably going to be in big trouble. Thinking of Demon Dao's situation, Qing Su revealed a gloating smile. Sect Master. When the 2 guards at the entrance of the valley saw Qing Su, they hurriedly bowed respectfully. At the same time, they opened the restriction at the entrance of the valley and invited Qing Su in. Qing Shuzi nodded. With a flick of his sleeve, he gave off a sage-like aura, causing the 2 guards to feel deep veneration for him. Not long after Qing Suzi entered the valley, a few more streaks of light flew over from the horizon. Their target was none other than the Clear Void Valley that was hidden in the clouds. Whoosh! Whoosh! A total of 7 silhouettes stopped at the entrance of the Clear Void Valley. The leader was a youth. He stared at the Clear Void Valley in front of him and said to a black-robed cold-faced man behind him, "Is this the Clear Void Valley?" The black-robed man nodded and said, "Yes. However, there are restrictive spells around the Clear Void Valley. It won't be that easy for you to break into the Clear Void Valley." Zhuowen, however, says with a smile, "Could it be that 6 great celestial venerables still can't break through the restrictive spell of this Qingshu Valley?" Master Demon's eyes narrowed and he coldly said, "You want me to be your coolie?" "This isn't coolie, it's cooperation. After breaking through this Clear Void Valley, I'll give you a piece of the 9 Autumns wind. However, if you don't cooperate, you'll have to bear the consequences." Zhuowen indifferently said. The 5 great celestial venerables behind him stepped out and coldly stared at Master Demon. Master Demon's eyelids twitched. He coldly snorted and flew towards the entrance of the Clear Void Valley. The power of 5 great celestial venerables was not something that Master Demon could contend against. Therefore, he could only suffer in silence. "Master Demon of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace? Why have you come to our Clear Void Valley?" The 2 guards at the entrance of the valley immediately recognized Master Demon and coldly shouted, "Open the restrictive spell at the entrance of the valley or die." Master Demon indifferently says. The 2 guards' faces flushed red. They coldly said, "Master Demon, do you want to start a war between the Clear Void Valley and the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace? You actually dare to break into our Clear Void Valley by yourself? You won't open it? Then die." Master Demon took a step forward. Endless demonic energy gushed out from his body. Then, the demonic energy gathered into a demonic sword. With a slash of the demonic sword, a terrifying demonic energy exploded out and heavily slammed into the restrictive spell at the entrance of the valley. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire Clear Void Valley shook. The surrounding mountains trembled even more. Countless rocks rolled down from above. The 2 guards at the entrance of the valley staggered and almost fell. They angrily shouted, "Master Demon, don't go too far. Our master is inside the valley. When he comes out, you're dead. Let that old man come out. I can't wait for that old fart to come out quickly. Master Demon indifferently says. His hands' movements were not slow either. The clear void valley shook even more violently. And this violent shaking finally attracted the attention of all the disciples in the valley. There were many buildings in the clear void valley. Clouds and mist lingered around the valley. It was full of pavilions, terraces, and streams. It looked like a paradise on earth. But at this moment, the shaking that pervaded the entire clear void valley completely shocked everyone in the valley. Ching Su, who had just returned to the valley, hadn't even warmed his seat when he encountered this kind of thing. His originally bad mood became even worse. How dare you break into my clear void valley? You really don't want to live. With that, Ching Su turned into a wisp of smoke and rushed towards the entrance of the valley. Whoosh! Not long after, Ching Su arrived at the entrance of the valley. But when he saw Master Demon attacking the restrictive spell, his pupils shrank. He shouted, "Master Demon, you actually didn't die." Master Demon's movements stopped. He coldly stared at Ching Su and said, "Old fart, do you really want me to die that much?" "Humph. What are you doing? You want to break into my clear void valley?" Ching Su didn't answer Master Demon's question. "That's right. Just now, Senior Ching Shuzi left too quickly. This junior came to visit Ching Su Valley this time just to ask for guidance from Senior Ching Shuzi. How could I have expected that the guards at the entrance of the valley were too rude and blocked our way?" Zhuowen slowly walked out with a faint smile on his lips. His gaze was indifferent as he stared at Ching Su. "Zhuowen." Ching Su's pupils shrank. Soon after, he stared at Master Demon and said, "I didn't expect that you would seek refuge with this Zhuowen in order to drag out an ignoble existence. You're the palace master of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. You really don't have any backbone." "Bullshit. I didn't seek refuge with Zhuowen. We just made a deal," Master Demon said coldly. Ching Su frowned slightly. He stared at Zhuowen and said, "Our clear void valley didn't offend you, little friend. Why did you come here this time?" Zhuowen grinned and said, "This junior took the liberty of paying a visit this time because I wanted to ask Senior Ching Su for 10 or so Wind Control 9 Autumn's tablets. I think Senior Ching Su will generously give them to me, right?" Ching Su's face twitched. Asking for 10 or so Wind Control 9 Autumn's tablets. This thing was left behind by the founder of the Clear Void Valley as an escape treasure for the later generations of the Clear Void Valley. There weren't many of them in total. This brat actually asked for 10 or so tablets. Wasn't this freaking robbery? What? Does Senior think this junior's request is too much? If you think it's too much, this junior won't force you. However, your Clear Void Valley doesn't need to exist anymore. At this point, Zhuowen's voice was filled with dense killing intent. Don't go too far. The Wind Control 9 Autumns was left behind by the founder of the Clear Void Valley. It belongs to the old ancestor. How can it be casually given to others? As for you wanting to destroy my Clear Void Valley, I don't think you have the ability to do so. Ching Su sneered. Is that so? Then I won't hold back. Xiang, you and Demon Daoist break the restriction at the entrance of the valley together. As soon as Zhuowen said this, the 5 celestial masters behind him rushed out at the same time. A terrifying aura burst out like a mountain falling from the sky, pressing down on the 2 guards at the entrance of the valley until their faces turned pale. There were actually 5 celestial masters. Including Demon Daoist, there were a total of 6 celestial masters joining forces to attack their Clear Void Valley. This battle strength was too terrifying. Their Clear Void Valley only had 1 celestial master, Ching Su. However, this ordinary-looking youth was actually able to command 6 celestial masters. It was really inconceivable. Xiang Tianzuan and the other 4 naturally wouldn't disobey Zhuowen's order. They all released their strongest aura and then bombarded the restriction at the entrance of the valley. Demon Taoist also didn't want to be outdone. He waved his devil sword and joined forces with Xiang Tianzuan and the others. Not good. We must immediately return to the valley and activate the valley protecting grand array. Qing Su's expression changed slightly. He grabbed the two guards in front of him with his right hand and then hurriedly rushed back to the valley. He knew that the restriction at the entrance of the valley wouldn't last for long. At this moment, the entire clear void valley was shaking even more violently. The disciples in the valley were also panicking. They were all guessing what was happening outside the valley. Headmaster is back. Soon, these anxious disciples of the clear void valley saw Qing Su rushing over. Qing Su didn't pay attention to these ordinary disciples. Instead, he went to the highest hall in the valley, gathered the 5 elders, and ordered them to activate the valley protecting grand array. The 5 elders also realized that the situation was critical. They didn't ask any questions. Instead, they each took action and activated the valley protecting grand array. After a while, a colorful protective barrier appeared outside the valley. This was the valley protecting grand array left behind by the founder of the clear void valley. Kacha. The restriction at the entrance of the valley was quickly broken. Then, Zhuoan let Ruan Lingyu stay outside the valley and rushed into the valley with the 6 celestial sovereigns. After passing through a ravine-like passage, they quickly arrived inside the valley. Unfortunately, the valley was currently enveloped by a great formation. Moreover, looking at the might of this great formation, its power was probably not weak. On the other side of the light barrier, Qing Su led the 5 elders and stared at Zhuoan and the 6 celestial sovereigns behind him with a serious expression. As for the disciples within the valley, they were all curiously looking up at the uninvited guests outside the light barrier. They were very curious as to who had the guts to attack their clear void valley. Furthermore, their headmaster, Qing Shuzi, seemed to be very nervous. However, when the disciples of the clear void valley saw that the person leading the group outside the light barrier was actually a young man around 20 years old, they were all stunned. Such a young man actually dared to trespass into their clear void valley. Moreover, Qing Su was acting so cautiously. When the disciples of the clear void valley saw the 6 imposing figures behind the young man, they were finally shocked. That was because none of the 6 people's auras were weaker than their headmaster, Qing Su. Chapter 938. Breaking the formation. Qing Shuzi stared at Zhuoan with a serious gaze and said, Zhuoan. My clear void valley didn't provoke you, right? Why are you so overbearing, and even daring to attack my clear void valley? Hua. He's Zhuoan. I didn't expect him to be so young. He looks only 20 years old. Once Qing Su's words left his mouth, all of the disciples in the valley were shaken. During this period of time, the rumors regarding Zhuowen had spread like wildfire within Yen City. Even the majority of the Clear Void Valley disciples several thousand miles away had heard of Zhuowen's matter. It was said that a month ago, the Shaoyan family was destroyed by Zhuowen. Moreover, this Zhuowen had a heavenly venerate expert guarding him. But now it seemed that the rumors were wrong. This Zhuowen didn't only have one heavenly venerate expert guarding him. He clearly had 5 heavenly venerate experts. Adding Demon Daozi, that was a total of 6 heavenly venerate experts. This was a terrifying force, enough to sweep through their Clear Void Valley. If it wasn't for the valley protecting formation, the Clear Void Valley would have been in chaos by now. Senior Qing Shuzi, I don't want to cause trouble in your Clear Void Valley. I just want to ask for some wind controlling 9 autumns. Senior Qing Shuzi, you shouldn't be stingy with the sect in mind, right? Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Qing Shuzi's face twitched. He said coldly, the wind controlling 9 autumns is a treasure left behind by the founder. How can it be given to an outsider? Zhuowen, although you have 6 heavenly venerates, it won't be that easy to break my valley protecting formation. I advise you to leave as soon as possible. You think we can't break it? How laughable. Xiang, all of you attack together. I want to see if this so-called valley protecting formation is really that strong. Zhuowen said with a cold expression. Yes. Xiang Tianzuan nodded. He led the other 4 heavenly venerates, revealing their heavenly venerate auras, and began to attack the light barrier in front of them. Under Zhuowen's gaze, Demon Daozi curled his lips and cooperated with Xiang Tianzuan and the others to attack together. Boom! Boom! The 6 exalted celestials each unleashed a powerful attack. In an instant, all kinds of colored origin energy exploded. Like brilliant fireworks, they appeared in the sky above the clear void valley. Soon after, the entire clear void valley began to violently shake. The seemingly powerful valley protection array was on the verge of collapse. The light within it had even dimmed. This scene caused Qing Su Zi and the others to break out in cold sweat. Fortunately, although the protective valley array seemed to be on the verge of collapse, it was extremely sturdy. No matter how Xiang Tianzuan and the others attacked, it actually managed to block the combined attack of the 6 celestial masters. Xiang Tianzuan and the others frowned. After a round of attacks, they stopped attacking and slowly retreated. They looked at Zhuowen as if they were asking for his opinion. Zhuowen frowned slightly. It seemed that the valley protecting grand formation of this clear void valley was indeed not ordinary. It was actually able to hold on for so long without collapsing. Kid! You must find the formation core of this valley protection array. Only by piercing through it can you completely destroy this valley protection array. Brute force is not enough to destroy it at all. Xiao Hei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen nodded. Naturally, he knew that if he wanted to destroy the array easily, he had to find the formation core. However, this valley protection array was so big that it was not that easy to find the formation core. Moreover, he did not know anything about arrays. Xiao Hei, I'll have to rely on you to destroy this array. Zhuowen said awkwardly. I knew it. This Dragon Lord will have to do it again. Start transforming into your Dragon Man form. After that, hand over control of your body to me. Xiao Hei instructed. Zhuowen nodded. An ink-black mist gushed out from between his eyebrows. This mist enveloped his entire body. Ear-piercing sounds of bones dislocating rang out. Zhuowen transformed into his Dragon Man form that was covered in bone spikes. His eyes were a strange dark gold color. At this moment, Qing Shuzi and the others in the valley heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the 6 heavenly sovereigns were unable to destroy the valley protection array. Zhuowen. This valley protection array is not something that can be destroyed with brute force. You'd better retreat. Otherwise, you'll just be wasting your time here. Qing Shuzi was very confident at this moment. However, the only response he received was a long period of silence. Soon after, he gathered his gaze. Unknowingly, Zhuowen's entire body was covered with dragon scales, and there was a huge dragon tail behind him. He appeared extremely strange. When did this kid become so strange? Qing Shuzi muttered softly. Before he could react, Zhuowen, who had transformed into his Dragon Man form, leaped up and arrived above the valley protection array. His dark gold eyes emitted a sharp light. What is this kid doing? Demon Daozi asked in confusion. However, Xiang Tianzuan and the others did not answer him because they also did not know what Zhuowen was doing. It should be around here. Xiao Hei muttered softly. Then, his right elbow suddenly struck above the valley protection array. The sharp bone spikes emitted a sharp cold light. Humph. Zhuowen, even the 6 heavenly sovereigns were unable to break the valley protection array. Do you think that you can break it after transforming into such a hideous state? Qing Shuzi snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with disdain. Zhuowen did not pay any attention to Qing Shuzi's mockery. His elbow struck above the valley protection array and a powerful force poured out. The entire valley protection array seemed to come to a standstill at this moment. Kacha! Cracks began to spread in all directions from the center of the valley protection array. Then, the light shield of the valley protection array shattered into countless light spots in front of everyone's eyes. Qingsu Valley fell into a strange silence. The smile on Qing Shuzi's face also froze. He looked as if he had seen a ghost and his mouth was wide open. It's broken. Qing Shuzi murmured doubtfully. The 5 elders beside him swallowed their saliva and nodded with difficulty. Then, they spat out a word, yes. The expressions on the faces of Xiang Tianzuan and the others were even more interesting. The valley protection array that the 6 heavenly sovereigns had worked together to attack for a long time was actually broken by Zhuowen so easily. Moreover, it seemed that Zhuowen had only attacked once and the valley protection array shattered like glass. They suddenly felt that their dignity as heavenly sovereigns had suffered a great blow. Take down Qing Shuzi. Zhuowen's voice rang out. Xiang Tianzuan and the others finally came to their senses. They stamped their feet and flew toward Qing Shuzi. Qing Shuzi also came to his senses and tried his best to resist. He wanted to stop Xiang Tianzuan and the others. Unfortunately, whether it was strength or the number of heavenly sovereigns, Qing Shuzi was completely inferior to Zhuowen's group. In a breath's time, Qing Shuzi was captured by Xiang Tianzuan. The disciples in Qingsu Valley all looked flustered, but no one dared to move. Their leader, Qing Shuzi, had been captured. Their resistance was futile. Don't kill me, Qing Shuzi said in a panic. At this moment, Zhuowen had already left his Dragon-Man state. He slowly walked up to Qing Shuzi and said in a somewhat roguish manner, "Don't worry. I, Zhuowen, am not a bloodthirsty person. Take out all the 9 autumn's wind that you have. Don't play any tricks. If you don't, I'll really kill you." Qing Shuzi's face stiffened. However, when he saw Zhuowen's cold gaze, he sighed softly and took out 5 9 autumn's wind from his spiritual ring and handed them to Zhuowen. That's all. Zhuowen pointed at the 5 9 autumn's wind and asked. Yes. That's all, Qing Shuzi said hurriedly. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly as he said, Senior Qing Su, it's not that I don't believe you, but I just want to confirm it. Can you show me the items in your spiritual ring to see if you really don't have anything else? Qing Shuzi hesitated. The spiritual ring in his hand was the symbol of the Qingsu Valley's leader. It was also left behind by the founder of the Qingsu Valley. Its space was much larger than that of an ordinary spiritual ring. How could he casually show it to others? Could it be that Senior Qing Shuzi doesn't trust me, Zhuowen? Zhuowen's voice suddenly became cold. The aura of Xiang Tianzuan and the others also became more and more terrifying. This made Qing Shuzi's heart tremble. He had no choice but to take off the spiritual ring, erase the imprint, and hand it to Zhuowen. Of course I trust little brother Zhuo. Take it and have a look, Qing Shuzi said painfully. After taking the spiritual ring, Zhuowen casually checked it. He was surprised to find that the space in Qing Shuzi's spiritual ring was actually very large. It was at least 10 times the space of an ordinary spiritual ring. This spiritual ring was not ordinary. Moreover, there were a lot of spiritual stones in the spiritual ring. Among them, there were nearly 1 million upper-grade spiritual stones and several million middle-grade spiritual stones. The wealth on his body was actually much richer than that of the Shaoyan family. Qing Shuzi did not lie. There was indeed no extra 9 autumn's wind in the spiritual ring. It was basically filled with spiritual stones. Little brother Zhuo, shouldn't you return the spiritual ring to me? Qing Shuzi suddenly reminded Zhuowen. Zhuowen gently stroked Qing Shuzi's spiritual ring, then took off the other spiritual ring from his hand. He emptied the contents of the spiritual ring and threw it to Qing Shuzi, saying, "I think your spiritual ring is very compatible with mine. How about we exchange?" The corner of Qing Shuzi's mouth twitched. Could Zhuowen be any more shameless? He actually dared to exchange the spiritual ring in front of him. What was the difference between this and robbery? Looking at Senior Qing Shuzi's expression, it seems that you are not very satisfied with my spiritual ring? Zhuowen grinned, revealing a row of cold teeth. Qing Shuzi could not help but shudder. He had already cursed Zhuowen's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. However, his face was full of smiles, and he said, "Since little brother Zhuowen likes it, we can exchange." Now, Qing Shuzi did not dare to refuse. Zhuowen's character was unpredictable. Moreover, his life was in his hands. How could he risk his life to refuse Zhuowen? My way of doing things is indeed a little inappropriate. However, since Senior Qing Shuzi insists on exchanging with me, then I will reluctantly accept. Zhuowen chuckled and openly put Qing Shuzi's spiritual ring on his hand without a trace of shame on his face. Meanwhile, Qing Shuzi was already cursing in his heart. This Zhuowen definitely said those words on purpose to provoke him. Since this matter has been settled, we will not disturb Senior any longer. Goodbye. Chapter 939. Demonic Path. The spiritual ring on Qing Su's finger is called the Qing Su ring. It's the keepsake of the Qing Su Valley's headmaster. It's a top-grade spiritual ring forged by the founder of the Qing Su Valley. Demon Taoist looked at the clear void ring on Zhuowen's hand with envy and continued, "The space in your clear void ring is more than 10 times that of an ordinary spirit ring. It is much more practical than an ordinary spirit ring." There is a hint of astonishment in Zhuowen's eyes. He did not expect this Qingshu ring to have such an extraordinary origin. It was actually forged by the founder of the Qingshu Valley. From the valley protecting formation and this Qingshu ring, it can be seen that the founder of the Qingshu Valley was not simple at all. With a flick of his finger, Zhuowen handed a Wind Control 9 Autumns to Demon Taoist and said indifferently, "This is the Wind Control 9 Autumns that I promised to give you. Keep it well." Master Demon was startled. He didn't think that Zhuowen would actually give him a supreme treasure like the 9 Autumns Wind Guard. After putting away the 9 Autumns Wind Guard, Master Demon's eyes flashed with surprise. This wind dominates the 9 Autumns was extremely useful in his life or death situation. It was no different from having an extra life, but Zhuowen still gave him one. This caused an indescribable feeling to surge in Master Demon's heart. "Don't look at me like that. I, Zhuowen, will naturally honor my words," Zhuowen said calmly. Taoist Demon nodded and cupped his hands at Zhuowen, saying, "Many thanks then." After that, the group didn't speak a word. After half a day, Demon Taoist brought Zhuowen to the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. As soon as they arrived at the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, Demon Taoist conferred Zhuowen the title of head disciple in front of the many disciples of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. His status was almost the same as Demon Shadow's. Naturally, Demon Shadow's position also fell on Zhuowen's head. Because of this matter caused quite a huge commotion within the Heavenly Peak Demon Palace. Many disciples faintly felt somewhat unconvinced. They also knew that Mo Ying had died in Yen City. However, they did not know the exact reason. But once Demon Shadow died, Master Demon Dao actually conferred a strange young man as his eldest disciple. His status was the same as Demon Shadow's, and this person seemed to have special privileges that Demon Shadow didn't have. In an instant, Zhuowen became the target of public criticism in the Celestial Peak Devil Palace. However, since Zhuowen went into seclusion as soon as he entered the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, those disciples who were unconvinced didn't have the chance to provoke Zhuowen. However, it was precisely because of this behavior that the disciples of the Heaven Peak Devil Palace maliciously guessed that Zhuowen was afraid of being challenged by other disciples and used the excuse of being in seclusion to avoid the battle. Zhuowen naturally didn't know about the malicious guesses of the disciples of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace. Even if he knew, he wouldn't pay too much attention to it. The number one genius of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, Missouri Ying, was killed by him, and Master Demon was even more afraid of him. Why would he pay too much attention to the small fries of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace? After Wan Lingyu was brought back to the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, she was accepted as a direct disciple by Master Demon Dao. Under the guidance of Master Demon Dao, she also went into seclusion. The Celestial Peak Devil Palace was built on top of a mountain peak that was tens of thousands of feet tall. This mountain peak was surrounded by a strange black fog. This black fog rolled wantonly as if it could transform into tens of thousands of demons. At the top of the mountain peak, there was a majestic palace that stood tall. The sharp top of the palace revealed a sharpness and arrogance that couldn't be looked at directly. In a spacious hall of one of the palaces, a lonely figure was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. This person was about 20 years old. His long hair draped over his shoulders and his chest was moving up and down rhythmically. His breathing was steady. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen flicked his finger and took out a blue crystal. Within the blue crystal, there was a constantly wriggling worm. It was the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva that he took out from Wan Lingyu's body. Xiao He. This thing seems to be very impatient during this period of time. How should I deal with it? Zhuowen slightly knitted his brows. During this period of time, the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva constantly emitted shrill cries. It was like a pig that was being slaughtered, causing Zhuowen's heart to be in a mess. This 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva was at the crucial moment of breaking out of its cocoon and transforming into a butterfly. Because of you, it's in great pain now. Without the nourishment of cold energy, it won't live for long. Xiao He's eyes flickered. It's going to die. Xiao He, didn't you say that once this 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva breaks out of its cocoon and transforms into a black soul ice butterfly? And this black soul ice butterfly has great potential. If it's nurtured, it can become a demon emperor. Then is there any other way to help it successfully break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly? Zhuowen suddenly asked. He was very clear that this black soul ice butterfly had great potential. If there was a strong supply of cold energy, this black soul ice butterfly would continue to evolve and eventually transform into a demon emperor. That was an extremely terrifying existence. Zhuowen was very tempted by this point. It's very difficult. According to the ancient records, if this 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva wants to break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly, it can only be done with the help of a girl with an extreme mean body. This dragon lord has never heard of any other methods. Xiao He shook his head. The Holy Rune of Ice in the Holy Rune of Ice Fire Holy Rune is a place of extreme yin and extreme cold. If we put this 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva into the Holy Rune of Ice, do you think it's possible to nurture it? Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly. When Zhuo Wenkai obtained the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae, he had already considered using the Holy Rune of Ice to nurture them. However, he had been in a crisis before, so Zhuo Wenkai did not implement it. Now that everything had been settled, Zhuowen naturally began to consider this 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva. What you said makes sense, but this method has never been tried before. Xiao He said with some hesitation. Then let's give it a try. As Zhuowen spoke, the Holy Rune of Ice on the back of his left hand suddenly shone brightly. Then, waves of cold energy gushed out and wrapped around the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite in his hand. Sure enough, when the cold energy wrapped around the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva, the latter actually stopped roaring. Its fleshy body, which had been constantly struggling, also quieted down. It's effective. Seeing this scene, Zhuowen beamed with joy. It's really effective. Boy, you can put this 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva into the Holy Rune of Ice. When the larva has completely broken out of its cocoon, you can release it. During this period, the cold energy in the holy rune of ice will continue to nurture the larva. Xiao He continued. Zhuowen nodded. With a thought, the cold energy wrapped around the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva trembled and completely pulled it into the holy rune of ice. Originally, there was a small space inside the holy rune of ice and fire. However, this space could only contain ice and fire energy. Other objects could not be placed inside. The 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva was wrapped in cold energy and was an ice attribute species. Naturally, it could enter the holy rune of ice. Zhuowen knew that it would take a long time for the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva to truly break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly. Therefore, he had to wait patiently. After dealing with the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva, Zhuowen took out a black jade slip from his bosom. This jade slip was surrounded by wisps of black mist, which looked exceptionally strange. This jade slip was given to him by the demon Taoist. It recorded the demon Taoist's secret method of entering the Tao with the demon Taoist, as well as some of his cultivation experiences and insights. Boy! If you can completely grasp the method of entering the Tao with the demon Taoist, then you can unlock a part of the power of the demon eye of the Buddha demon eye. Xiao He advised. Will the demon eye of the Buddha demon eye be of help to my cultivation of entering the Tao with the demon Taoist? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Of course. The Buddha demon eye was transformed from a true Buddha and true demon. After being refined by the fighting Buddha demon sage for countless years, it is extremely beneficial to the Buddha demon cultivation method. Xiao He nodded. Hearing this, Zhuowen's right hand touched between his eyebrows. Suddenly, a wisp of golden black light swept out from between his eyebrows and turned into an eye that alternated between golden black light. Demon eye! Zhuowen lightly shouted. The golden black light of the Buddha demon eye slowly dissipated and was replaced by a wisp of extremely deep darkness. It turned into a demonic eye. A demonic aura spread out from the demonic eye and spread throughout Zhuowen's body, causing Zhuowen's entire body to be filled with a monstrous demonic aura, as if he was an unpardonable great demon. Zhuowen silently felt the demonic aura coming from the demonic eye and comprehended the demon Tao contained within. Then, he opened the black jade slip in front of him and read the contents. Since the beginning of time, the demon Tao has been established. Entering the Tao with the demon Taoist is free and unfettered. Among all things, I am the only one. If I want to cover the sky will be dark. Mysterious contents flashed through Zhuowen's mind from the jade slip. These contents were the experiences and methods of the demon Taoist when he first entered the Tao with the demon Taoist. Moreover, the contents were extremely domineering. The demon Tao was the Tao of the self. It was the Tao of the self that would rather betray the world than betray oneself. In the heart of a true demon, everyone was nothing. Only the self was the only Tao. The true demon Tao only had the obsession to become stronger. In order to pursue the Tao, one could abandon all obsessions. Feeling the demon Tao's truth, Zhuowen frowned slightly. It seemed that the demon Tao was the Tao of ruthlessness. Although Zhuowen was sometimes very cold and ruthless, it was impossible for him to reach the realm of ruthlessness. Kid. As long as you guard your heart, regardless of whether you become a demon or a Buddha, it is just a medium for great power. Xiao He suddenly reminded. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes were startled. Immediately, a clear look appeared on his face. Xiao He was right. Whether it was becoming a Buddha or a demon, it was just a way to obtain great power. As long as he guarded his heart, it would be fine. Thinking of this, Zhuowen slowly stood up. The demonic eye between his eyebrows became even more profound. Waves of demonic aura surged, almost wrapping Zhuowen's entire body. Chapter 940. The evil repellent 7 times ticked by and 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Almost all the disciples of the Devil Palace had gathered in the Heavenly Devil Square of Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. It was bustling with activity. Tomorrow was the day they would head to the outer courtyard of the Jiaxin Academy. Today, the 5 people would gather in Yen City and the Flame Emperor would lead them to the assessment location. As for the many disciples of the Heaven Peak Devil Palace, Demon Shadow, one of the 5, had died in Yen City 3 months ago. As for Zhuo Wen, he had just joined the Heaven Peak Devil Palace not long ago. Therefore, these disciples had come to persuade Master Demon to replace him. Swoosh! The Demon Dao slowly appeared in the Heavenly Devil Square. However, his gaze was fixed on a black palace not far away. This palace was specially arranged for Zhuowen. 2 months ago, he had recorded the secret method of entering the Dao using the Demon Dao on a jade slip and gave it to Zhuowen. After that, Zhuowen immediately went into seclusion in the palace. The threshold for entering the Dao using the Demon Dao was very high. Even though the secret method was created by the Demon Dao, he had spent nearly half a year to grasp the basics. Hence, the Demon Dao naturally didn't think that Zhuowen would be able to comprehend the secret method of entering the Dao using the Demon Dao in 2 months. Palace Master. A group of people walked out of the Heavenly Devil Square. There were a total of 7 people in this group, and all of them had powerful auras. The person in the lead had the most powerful aura. This person wore tight black clothes, had short black hair, and had a silver ring on his nose. His eyes were filled with evil. When the 7 of them walked out, a commotion broke out in the Heavenly Devil Square. Many disciples looked at the 7 of them with fear and dread in their eyes. Clearly, the 7 of them were quite famous and intimidating in the Heavenly Devil Palace. The Evil Repellent 7. I wonder why they are here. Don't you know? The leader of the Evil Repellent 7, Mo Ling, broke through to the Xuanzuan realm a month ago. This time, he is probably here to ask for Mo Ying's spot or even to replace Mo Ying. Mo Ling's strength is indeed not bad. Back then, he was only second to Mo Ying in the Heavenly Devil Palace. However, I heard that the spot has been given to the newcomer by the Palace Master. Can Mo Ling even come over? Discussions slowly rang out as everyone stared at the actions of the demonized 7 men without blinking. What is it? Master Demon asked coldly. Mo Ling and the others bowed respectfully, and Mo Ling said, Palace Master. A month ago, Mo Ling successfully entered the Xuanzuan realm. In terms of strength, he's actually not weaker than Mo Ling back then. Originally, I should have replaced Mo Ying's position, but the Palace Master gave all the glory and status of the eldest disciple to a new disciple, so Mo Ling was dissatisfied. Master Demon's lips curled up and he said, You really aren't convinced? Mo Ling froze for a moment before replying, Indeed. Our Heavenly Peak Devil Palace speaks with strength. We don't even know how strong that new disciple is. Rashly giving him the position of head disciple is already inappropriate. Therefore, Mo Ling hopes that the Palace Master can give me a fair chance to compete. If that person is stronger than me, then I have nothing to say. If he's weaker than me, then he doesn't have the qualifications to have that spot. Mo Ling's tone contained a sharp aura. Master Demon looked at Mo Ling with a strange gaze. He naturally knew how strong Zhuowen was. Moreover, Zhuowen's cultivation was at the initial stage of the Sovereign Realm, which was 1 realm higher than Mo Ling. Now, Mo Ling actually proposed to challenge Zhuowen. Wasn't that just courting death? Mo Ling also saw the strange look in Master Demon's eyes and thought that Master Demon wanted to protect Zhuowen, so he said with some dissatisfaction, Palace Master, it's not your character to be biased. Moreover, our Heavenly Peak Devil Palace has always followed the law of the jungle. Could it be that the Palace Master wants to be biased towards that newcomer? Master Demon shook his head and said coldly, Since you want to challenge him, I naturally won't stop you. Moreover, if you can defeat that person, then giving the spot to you is a matter of course. However, everything will have to wait until he comes out of seclusion. The corner of Mo Ling's mouth slightly curled up as he nodded. He then stood aside with the 6 people behind him, silently waiting for Zhuowen to come out of seclusion. However, when the sun was high up in the sky, Zhuowen still hadn't come out of seclusion. Many disciples who were waiting in the heavenly devil square began to feel a little restless. They all guessed that Zhuowen was afraid and didn't dare to come out. Mo Ling crossed her arms, and the contempt in her eyes became even more intense. She was sure that Zhuowen might really be afraid. Master Demon's gaze was still indifferent, as if there was nothing in the world that could make him reveal other emotions. Boom! Suddenly, a pillar of blood soared into the sky from Zhuowen's palace. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens as it pierced through the sky. Monstrous demonic intent spread out from the palace, causing the entire heavenly peak devil palace to tremble. What a terrifying demonic intent! Could this demonic intent be released by the new disciple? Feeling the terrifying demonic intent, everyone in the heavenly devil square was shocked. Some of the weaker disciples even felt their legs go soft and they almost knelt on the ground. This demonic intent was too terrifying, causing them to feel a sense of submission in their hearts. Mo Ling, who originally had disdain in his eyes, was also a little moved at this moment. He frowned his brows and there was a trace of dread in his eyes. It seemed like this new disciple wasn't simple. He was actually able to release such a terrifying demonic intent. No wonder the palace master gave the position of the head disciple to him. However, Mo Ling's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Even if this person had a powerful demonic intent, he was still confident in his own strength. As long as he defeated this person, he would become the #1 genius of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace's new generation. In the Heavenly Devil Square, the one who was the most shocked was the demon Taoist, who had an indifferent expression from the beginning. At this moment, the demon Taoist's body was trembling. His gaze froze as he stared blankly at the towering blood pillar. Others might only feel that the demonic intent in the blood pillar was very strong, but he could see something deeper. This demonic intent was indeed very strong, and it was released under the control of someone. Only a martial artist who had mastered the demonic intent could release such a terrifying demonic intent. The demon Taoist immediately thought of Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen has grasped the initial step of entering the Tao with the devil in a short 2 months? This guy. The demon Taoist was really shocked. Zhuowen's talent was so high that it had exceeded his expectations. Back then, he had used half a year to master the demonic Tao technique. This was already considered a short time. However, he did not expect that Zhuowen would actually shorten his time record by 3 times. It only took him 2 months to grasp the initial stage of the secret technique of entering the Tao through the devil. Whoosh! A figure rushed out of the blood pillar and quickly arrived in the sky above the heavenly devil square. Everyone raised their heads and saw a young man with blood-red hair and blood-red eyes. His entire body was exuding an extremely strong demonic aura. This young man's entire body was shrouded in a terrifying blood aura. His figure was faintly discernible and seemed extremely mysterious. This child has actually stepped into the demonic Tao of slaughter. Moreover, he has mastered the demonic Tao technique so quickly. Could it be that this child has experienced the demonic Tao before? Moreover, this experience is related to the demonic Tao of slaughter, so he stepped into the demonic Tao of slaughter. Looking at the figure whose entire body was surging with blood aura, the demon Taoist's eyes narrowed. He remembered that the demonic Tao recorded in his jade slip wasn't the demonic Tao of slaughter, but the demonic Tao of ice. There were thousands of Taos in the world. Although it was the demonic Tao was naturally subdivided into many types. The demonic Tao that the demon Taoist comprehended was the demonic Tao of ice. From beginning to end, he was immersed in calmness and indifference. This was the demonic Tao of slaughter that allowed him to obtain powerful strength and control. But because Zhuowen had used the power of the blood demon to enter the demonic Tao, and the blood demon cultivated the demonic Tao of slaughter. It was a terrifying demonic Tao that sacrificed blood to the heavens. Zhuowen had a unique understanding of the demonic Tao of slaughter. Although the jade slip that the demon Taoist gave him didn't contain any cultivation methods for the demonic Tao of slaughter, since they were both part of the demonic Tao, their cultivation methods would naturally lead to the same goal. From the jade slip that the demon Taoist gave him, Zhuowen naturally walked onto his own demonic Tao. Have you grasped the initial mastery of the demonic Tao technique? Zhuowen slowly descended beside the demon Taoist. The demon Taoist couldn't help but ask. I have indeed grasped the initial mastery. The power of the demonic Tao is truly terrifying. It can actually increase my strength by so much. Demon Taoist, how many realms does the demonic Tao technique have? Zhuowen suddenly asked. 5 realms, and each realm is more terrifying than the last. Currently, I have only grasped 2 realms of the demonic Tao. Your demonic Tao is different from my demonic Tao. Yours is the demonic Tao of slaughter. This also means that if you want to take the demonic Tao further in the future, you will have to kill. Killing is a virtue. Demon Taoist said in a dignified tone. Killing is a virtue. Zhuowen lightly muttered to himself. In the past 2 months, while he was cultivating the demonic Tao technique, he had also incorporated the power of the blood demon into his body and silently comprehended the intense demonic intent within the blood demon. Unexpectedly, in just 2 months, he had naturally grasped the demonic Tao of slaughter. Moreover, Zhuowen also discovered that because of the existence of the demonic eye, his cultivation of the demonic Tao technique was actually aided by the heavens. His cultivation speed was unimaginably fast. The demonic Tao was divided into 5 realms. Now, Zhuowen had grasped the first realm. However, just the power of the first realm brought endless benefits to Zhuowen. His strength had multiplied, and with his sovereign realm cultivation, he didn't need to fear a golden venerable. Moreover, in the past 2 months, in addition to comprehending the demonic intent, Zhuowen's cultivation had also improved. He had reached the middle stage of the sovereign realm, which could be considered a small harvest. It seems that you are the eldest disciple that the palace master brought back. However, I have to tell you in advance that my heavenly peak demon palace adheres to the law of the jungle. The higher you want to stand, the more ability you have. Mo Ling stood up, stared at Zhuowen, and said loudly, we didn't see your ability, but you sat on the position of the head disciple. So, if you want to live up to your title as the head disciple, then accept my challenge. You want to challenge me? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Chapter 941. Demonic Tao of Massacre, Scared? Zhuowen shook his head and continued, when Mo Ling provoked me, I broke his limbs and crippled his cultivation. Now that you, Mo Ling, have come to provoke me, what will you do if you lose? Mo Ling was stunned and sneered, you're saying that Mo Ling was crippled by you? What a joke. Do you think you can intimidate me with just your words? I'm asking you what will you do if you lose? Zhuowen stared coldly at Mo Ling with his scarlet eyes, causing the latter to shiver. What else can I do? Naturally, the position of first disciple and entrance examination will belong to you again, Mo Ling replied coldly. Zhuowen smirked and said, they belong to me anyway. How about this, if you lose, you'll pay with your life. After saying that, Zhuowen made his move. His right hand stomped on the air and pressed down. Suddenly, boundless blood qi gathered in the air and formed a huge bloody hand. It was like a mountain that crushed down on the demonic spirit below. Mo Ling was startled. He didn't expect that Zhuowen would attack him like that. He roared angrily and formed a seal with both hands. Waves of black dead spirits gushed out from his body, turning into thousands of feet tall dead spirit phantoms that rushed towards Blood Hand without any hesitation. You're just a facade. Zhuowen's voice rang out again. Then, the bloody hand grabbed the huge dead spirit shadow and squeezed it. The dead spirit shadow didn't even let out a groan before it shattered into countless pieces. Boom! The bloody hand fell from the sky and covered Mo Ling. Then, the entire heavenly devil square trembled violently. The bloody hand slammed on the ground and formed a huge palm print. Mo Ying's figure disappeared completely. At this moment, the entire heavenly devil square fell into dead silence. Mo Ling was the second genius of Tianfeng Demon Palace and had just advanced to the Xuanzuan realm a month ago. He was a rising star and genius of Tianfeng Demon Palace. However, such a genius was easily killed by a single palm strike. Looking at Zhuo Wen's appearance, it was as if killing this demon spirit was no different from killing an ant. There was not the slightest expression on his face. The blood qi around Zhuo Wen slowly dissipated. His blood-red hair and eyes also returned to normal. It was obvious that Zhuo Wen had left his demonic state. The demonic Tao of massacre is very powerful. The increase in strength is even more terrifying than my demonic Tao of ice. I really don't know how powerful you'll be when you reach the Emperor realm. Demon Daoist. His demonic Tao of massacre was actually already very powerful, but Zhuo Wen's demonic Tao of massacre was much more tyrannical than his demonic Tao of massacre. It was a demonic Tao of massacre was massacre. Was the demonic Tao of massacre? It was demonic Tao of massacre. It was demonic Tao of massacre was a demonic Tao of massacre. Master Demon could even foresee that if this young man continued down this demonic path, he would eventually create a monstrous sea of blood. This was because this demonic path was destined to require one to step over mountains of corpses and seas of blood in order to reach perfection. However, Master Demon didn't expect that Zhuo Wen would have the Buddha demon eye. Therefore, it was impossible for Zhuo Wen to lose himself in the demonic slaughter Tao. The devil Tao was the master of slaughter while the Buddha guarded the heart. Everything was about balance. With the control of the Buddha devil eye, Zhuo Wen would only fight according to his heart. He wouldn't be dominated by slaughter because of the devil Tao. Palace Master. This person is too audacious. He actually dared to kill a fellow disciple in the heavenly devil square. This person is unfilial and should be executed. The remaining 6 members of the demonized 7 recovered from their shock and revealed expressions of grief and indignation. Mo Ling was their big brother. Ever since the 7 of them had joined the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, they had supported and helped each other. Their relationship was quite deep. Now, as the big brother of the demonized 7, Mo Ling had been slapped to death by Zhuo Wen. The remaining 6 naturally resented Zhuo Wen in their hearts. They wanted nothing more than for Zhuo Wen to be buried with Mo Ling. Zhuo Wen's gaze was as calm as water. He said to Master Demon that Mo Ling clearly said that your Heavenly Peak Devil Palace follows the law of the jungle. I'm strong and he's weak, but he recklessly provoked me. Doesn't he deserve to die? Master Demon, what do you think? Zhuo Wen's words caused the 6 people to become even more furious. At the same time, their gazes landed on Master Demon. They knew that the only one who could uphold justice for their big brother was Master Demon. Zhuo Wen is right. Mo Ling deserved to die. What's the point of you pestering him endlessly? If you have the ability, you can seek revenge on Zhuo Wen. I won't stop you. Master Demon said coldly. As soon as these words were spoken, the 6 of them went silent. Asking the 6 of them to seek revenge from Zhuo Wen was no different than courting death. After all, Zhuo Wen's slap was enough to kill an expert of the Xuanzuan realm like Mo Ling. Even if the 6 of them joined forces, it would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the 5 heavenly sovereigns led by Xiang Tianzuan rushed out of the palace where Zhuo Wen was in seclusion. They surrounded Zhuo Wen respectfully. Master Demon. Let's set off now. I'm afraid that the other 4 people from Yen City should also be heading to Yen City. Zhuo Wen said indifferently. Master Demon nodded and brought Zhuo Wen to the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with hope. Finally, Zhuowen was going to enter the Excellent Divine Academy. According to Master Demon, the Excellent Divine Academy was recruiting disciples for the outer court. Aside from the outer court, the Excellent Divine Academy also had a mysterious inner court. Zhuowen didn't know whether Mu Qinxue would be in the outer court or the inner court. However, he was very clear about Mu Qinxue's talent. In addition, she had entered the Excellent Divine Academy a few years earlier than him. It was possible for her to enter the inner court. Zhuowen didn't care too much about this. He knew that as long as he entered the outer court, he would enter the inner court sooner or later. Although he didn't know the requirements to enter the inner court, he was still confident in his talent. I wonder how the cold poison in Mu Qinxue's body is doing. Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. There was a trace of worry in his voice. Although Xiao He said that the seven-colored phoenix fire could suppress the cold poison for 3 years, this was only Xiao He's estimate. The outbreak of the cold poison could be brought forward or delayed. Therefore, Zhuowen had to fuse the heavenly fire as soon as possible. Currently, Zhuowen had a total of 8 types of earth fire. Apart from the previous 7, the sun fire in the divine sun furnace wasn't any weaker than the earth fire. In fact, it was much stronger than the earth fire. Therefore, Zhuowen could use the fire fusion art to fuse the sun fire with the other 7 types of earth fire. Fusing 8 types of earth fire wasn't as difficult as imagined. However, 9 was an extreme number. Once the number of earth fire reached 9, the incompatibility would be magnified without limit. The flames would also mutate and deviate from the category of heavenly fire. Back then, Elder Xuan had already tried it, but failed. This was also the point that Zhuowen was most worried about. Fortunately, Elder Xuan had given Zhuowen a suggestion. That was to find a 1,000-fold fossil as a catalyst. Perhaps, he might be able to fuse the heavenly fire. Elder Xuan had also mentioned that the lead to the 1,000-fold fossil was in the possession of the chief arcanist of the Divine Sun Academy, Mu Feng. In addition to the Holy Ice Fire Talisman, Zhuowen had to enter the Divine Sun Academy. Soon, Demon Daoist, Zhuowen, and the others arrived at Yen City. At this moment, Yen City was exceptionally lively. Moreover, all the cultivators in Yen City were rushing towards the Yen Huang Plaza in the center of Yen City. This was because the Flame Emperor was preparing to bring 5 monstrous geniuses to the outer court of the Divine Sun Academy to participate in the entrance exam. This exam was related to the honor of the Yenxian Empire. After all, there were many powers like the Yenxian Empire in the eastern lands. Those powers would also send their top geniuses to participate in the entrance exam of the Divine Sun Academy. If the geniuses of the Yenxian Empire performed well in the exam, the reputation of the Yenxian Empire would naturally improve. This was an indelible benefit to the development of the empire. Let's go to the Yen Huang Plaza. The teleportation array to the outer court of the Divine Sun Academy is located in the Yen Huang Plaza. Demon Daoist said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen naturally had no objections. Soon, their group arrived at the Yen Huang Plaza. At this moment, the plaza was surrounded by a sea of people. Basically, all of them were cultivators who came to watch the show. In addition, Zhuowen discovered that there were 2 groups that had arrived in the plaza. Zhuowen was very familiar with one of the groups. Zhuowen was also familiar with the people in the group. It was actually the group from the Clear Void Valley. The leader was Qing Shuzi, and Zue Qingfeng was silently following behind him. Qing Shuzi and Zue Qingfeng naturally also noticed Demon Daoist and Zhuowen's group. Their faces twitched. Back then, Zhuowen had caused their Clear Void Valley to suffer miserably. He even robbed their Clear Void Valley, causing them to suffer heavy losses. However, the 2 of them were a little surprised that Demon Daoist would actually bring Zhuowen along. Could it be that he was planning to give the Devil Shadow Spot to Zhuowen? Zhuowen didn't pay any attention to Zue Qingfeng and Qing Shuzi's unfriendly expressions. Instead, his gaze was placed on the other group. This group was completely made up of women. Moreover, These women all had light veils covering their faces, making them look rather mysterious. At the front of the group was a woman with a graceful figure. Her posture was graceful, just like a water snake. Every movement of hers was filled with charm and seduction. When Zhuowen first saw her, he was stunned for a while before regaining his senses. That's Xianxing from the Myriad Star Palace. She's a peerless beauty and has the title of the #1 beauty in the Yanxian Empire. Her strength can't be underestimated. She's even above Zui Qingfeng and Devil Shadow. She's a true monstrous genius. Demon Taoist introduced her to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded his head. He naturally knew about the Myriad Star Palace. It was also one of the 5 great factions in Yen City. It was said that this faction was the most low-key and mysterious one among the 5 great factions. Moreover, the geniuses that they nurtured were all famous experts. The arrival of Demon Taoist with Zhuowen and 5 great heavenly sovereigns immediately attracted everyone's attention. When the crowd saw that the 6 people beside Zhuowen were all heavenly sovereign experts, they were all stunned. Soon after, an uproar broke out. 6 great heavenly sovereign experts. Such a terrifying lineup wasn't something that an ordinary faction could take out. Among the 5 great factions, only the imperial family had such a foundation. Chapter 942. The Flame Emperor and Mo Lingtian, they are from the Celestial Peak Devil Palace. I remember that the Celestial Peak Devil Palace only has one heavenly venerate expert, the Demon Taoist. How come there are suddenly 5 more heavenly venerates? Also, isn't the genius of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace Missouri-ing? Who is this person? A young girl beside Xianxing asked doubtfully. Xianxing's beautiful eyes flashed slightly, but her gaze was focused on the young man in the middle of the 6 heavenly venerates. She realized that whether it was the Demon Taoist or Xiang Tianzuan's group of 5, they all seemed to be faintly centered around this young man. Xiao Yuan. Do you know a young man who has been rumored in Yen City recently? Xianxing suddenly asked softly. The girl named Xiao Yuan exclaimed in surprise and nodded, of course I have. It is said that a monstrous genius suddenly appeared in Yen City. Not only did he destroy the Shaoyan family, even Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying were no match for him. This monstrous genius is called Zhuowen. Speaking up to here, the girl seemed to have realized something. Her beautiful eyes stared fixedly at the young man and said, Senior sister. You mean that this young man surrounded by 6 heavenly venerates is the Zhuowen who has been the talk of Yen City recently? Xianxing nodded and said, definitely. At that time, Zui Qingfeng used the 9 autumn's wind to escape, and Mo Ying was unfortunately crippled by this Zhuowen. I believe that with this Zhuowen's character, he will not let go of Mo Ying's spot. So he is Zhuowen. But he is so young. He looks to be around 20 years old, a few years younger than Zui Qingfeng and Mo Lingtian. Moreover, he is quite handsome. Xiao Yuan's large eyes stared unblinkingly at Zhuowen as she giggled. Xianxing shook her head and said, Xiao Yuan, don't keep staring at him. According to the rumors, this Zhuowen is a devil who kills without batting an eyelid. If he gets angry, he might not let you off. Little Yuan stuck out her tongue and giggled, I know. Speaking of which, senior sister, according to the rumors, this Zhuowen is said to be a monstrous genius comparable to Prince Mo Lingtian. Moreover, he is so young and not ugly. Senior sister, aren't you tempted? Xianxing shook her head, her beautiful eyes were filled with indifference as she continued, what I pursue is the peak of the martial path. Hence, the strength of my other half has to far surpass me. Mo Lingtian from the royal clan doesn't have this qualification, and neither does this Zhuowen. Little Yuan pursed her lips and said, Senior sister. Mo Lingtian is the strongest genius in the Yanxian Empire. At your age, it's basically impossible for there to be someone whose strength surpasses yours, right? The eastern lands are vast and boundless. Even the number of geniuses in the outer courtyard of Jia Shan Academy is uncountable. Among them, there are many who are stronger than me. Little Yuan, how do you know that at my age, there isn't anyone who is stronger than me? Xian Xing continued to speak in an indifferent tone. Even if I'm far better than you, there should be a standard, right? Senior sister, your words are too general. Little Yuan's eyes rolled as she spoke. Xian Xing was a little helpless. The eccentric junior sister beside her raised her head slightly, her beautiful eyes gazing into the distance as she softly said, only those who possess the disposition of an emperor before the age of 25 are truly exceptional geniuses. Senior sister. Your requirements are really harsh. Those who can advance to the heavenly venerate realm before the age of 25 are already geniuses amongst geniuses. It's even more difficult to advance from the heavenly venerate realm to the emperor realm. I'm afraid it's very difficult to reach the emperor realm before the age of 25, right? Little Yuan shook her head helplessly. Her senior sister had a cold and arrogant personality, but she was also devastatingly beautiful. Countless young geniuses in Yen City had pursued her, but it was a pity that they had all returned in defeat. This was because Xian Xing's requirements for her other half were too high and too harsh. Otherwise, how can he be called a genius? Xian Xing said indifferently. Zhuowen naturally didn't know anything about the conversation between Xian Xing and Little Yuan. Now, he was silently waiting for the Flame Emperor. In his heart, he was already yearning for Yujia Academy. At the same time, he was also a little nervous because entering Yujia Academy meant that he was one step closer to Muchenxue. Not long after, another team swept over. This team's style was also very distinct. They were all burly men with bulging muscles. Their bodies were sturdy like giant beasts. This is another super force in Yen City, the Five Elements sect. The young man at the front is the Five Elements sect's genius, K. Tuesday. He's the son of the Five Elements sect master. His talent is also very terrifying. Demon Daozi said to Zhuowen. K2 was extremely sturdy. He was over 3 meters tall and felt like a crane among a flock of chickens. The Five Elements sect master was half a head shorter than K. Tuesday, only the imperial family is left. Zhuowen murmured. His heart was filled with hope. Not long after, 2 figures flew out from the palace at the center of Yen City. One of them was a mighty middle-aged man dressed in a fiery red robe. Every movement of this middle-aged man faintly revealed a trace of the luxurious aura of an emperor. Flame Emperor. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared at the middle-aged man. This wasn't the first time he had seen an Emperor Realm warrior. Naturally, he was very familiar with the Flame Emperor's aura. It was the unique aura of an Emperor Realm warrior. The young man beside the Flame Emperor was about 23 years old. He wore a blue brocade robe and had a warm smile on his face. The aura on his body was extremely powerful. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that this young man's skin was snow-white and delicate. His face was as delicate as porcelain, giving Zhuowen an illusion of beauty. At this moment, Zhuowen realized that the words that should have been used on women were more suitable for the young man in front of him. This was because the young man was even more beautiful and enchanting than a woman. This kind of temperament should not appear on a man at all. This devilishly beautiful man was the imperial family's genius, Mo Lingtian. It was said that his cultivation had reached the sovereign realm and his strength was extremely terrifying. If it wasn't for Zhuowen's sharp senses that Mo Lingtian had an Adam's apple protruding from his neck, he would have suspected that Mo Lingtian was a woman in disguise. Perhaps because he noticed Zhuowen's strange gaze, Mo Lingtian tilted his head slightly. His beautiful eyes met with Zhuowen's and the corners of his mouth curled up. He revealed a smile that could captivate all living things, causing Zhuowen to be absent-minded for a moment. Instantly regaining his senses, Zhuowen stared at Mo Lingtian with some fear. It seemed that this Mo Lingtian wasn't ordinary. There was actually a trace of enchanting effect in his smile. At the same time, Zhuowen couldn't help but imagine that if this Mo Lingtian appeared on Earth, he would probably become the idol of countless people. This was because this fellow was the type that attracted both men and women. 6 great heavenly sovereigns. How interesting. Mo Lingtian naturally retracted his gaze and muttered in a low voice. Lingtian. That young man is called Zhuowen. He's not a simple character. The Flame Emperor, who was beside Mo Lingtian, also noticed Zhuowen not far away and said meaningfully. Mo Lingtian was startled and immediately said, "So it's that Zhuowen." Recently, there have been many rumors about this Zhuowen in Yen City. However, Father, you actually said that he's not simple. Could it be that this Zhuowen has an extraordinary background? Father will tell you later. However, the time isn't right yet. The Flame Emperor shook his head and left Mo Lingtian in suspense. The latter was a little surprised and couldn't help but pay more attention to Zhuowen. Mo Lingtian's frequent glances made Zhuowen feel a chill in his heart. He secretly complained that he didn't have that kind of fetish. And Zhuowen's reaction made Mo Lingtian feel puzzled. Why is this Zhuowen constantly avoiding my gaze like a woman? Your Majesty, the Flame Emperor. When the Flame Emperor and Mo Lingtian arrived in the sky above the square, countless warriors in the surroundings bowed respectfully. Their eyes were filled with reverence. They naturally had to show respect to the true masters of the Yen Xian Empire. The Flame Emperor nodded his head and immediately looked at the teams of the other 4 forces that had arrived in the square below. He said, "Today is the day of departure for the assessment of the Jiaxin Academy. I believe that the other 4 participating geniuses are all excited, right?" When the Flame Emperor said this, Zui Qingfeng and K2 clenched their fists in excitement. Even Xian Xing was a little nervous. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with hope. However, before we depart, I heard that the demon shadow of the Heaven Peak Demon Palace was crippled by someone 3 months ago. Who do you intend to replace the demon shadow? The Flame Emperor glanced at Zhuowen and asked the Demon Dao. Demon Dao lowered his head and said respectfully, "I have already chosen the candidate. The one beside me is called Zhuowen. He has just joined the Heaven Peak Devil Palace and his strength is outstanding. Therefore, he is the best candidate to replace the demon shadow." So you are called Zhuowen. However, this emperor had once heard of a young man called Zhuowen. Unfortunately, that young man wasn't a member of my Yenxian Empire, but in existence in the top 5 of the Azure Emperor rankings of the Azure Xian Empire. Moreover, that Zhuowen of the Azure Xian Empire was extraordinary. It was said that he killed the genius of the Azure Xian Empire's imperial family, Wangfu Wudao. When the Flame Emperor said this, countless people's gazes gathered on Zhuowen. They knew that the Flame Emperor's words were not without reason. In other words, it was very likely that this person was from the Qing Xian Empire. However, what surprised them was that Zhuowen had actually killed the crown prince of the Qing Xian Empire, Wangfu Wudao. He was really daring. Wasn't he afraid that the Qing Emperor would blame him? Zhuowen's pupils shrank. It seemed that the Flame Emperor knew him well. He said indifferently, "Your Majesty, what do you mean?" The smile on the Flame Emperor's face was still warm as he continued, "This Zhuowen is really audacious. Killing the crown prince was just a small prelude. This person even dared to face the Qing Emperor directly. Moreover, he killed 5 heavenly masters of the imperial family in a demonic state. Among them were peak heavenly masters, but they all died at the hands of Zhuowen. Wow! Finally, everyone in the square was in an uproar. Zhuowen had actually killed 5 heavenly masters. According to the Flame Emperor, Zhuowen was only a genius of the younger generation. He was only in his 20s, but he was able to kill 5 heavenly masters. What a magnificent feat! Xian Xing was also shocked. Killing heavenly masters was an extremely inconceivable thing to her. Therefore, her gaze stopped for the first time on the young man who was surrounded by 6 heavenly masters. Could the Zhuowen that the Flame Emperor was talking about be this young man? Or did they just have the same name? Mo Lingtian was also interested. He knew that his father had previously emphasized that Zhuowen was not simple. Now that the Flame Emperor had mentioned Zhuowen of the Qing Xian Empire, he couldn't help but connect the two together. It is said that Zhuowen forced the Qing Emperor to use his full strength in a demonic state. The two of them fought fiercely. Chapter 943. 9 Stars of the Void. Teleportation Void Emperor Qing was the strongest person in the Qing Xian Empire and was a legendary emperor realm expert. He was on par with the Flame Emperor of the Yan Xian Empire. However, the Zhuowen that the Flame Emperor spoke of was able to fight Emperor Qing even though he had yet to reach the Emperor realm. After a long period of silence, everyone in the Yanhuang Square, including the people from the 5 super forces, looked at the young man who was surrounded by the 6 holy masters. The young man that the Flame Emperor spoke of was called Zhuowen, and the monstrous talent that had suddenly risen in Yan City was also called Zhuowen. They seemed to have guessed something. Senior sister. That Zhuowen's level of freakishness really meets your standards. Moreover, he is even more terrifying. He has yet to reach the Emperor realm, but he has the ability to fight against an Emperor realm expert. Xiao Yuan regained her senses and suddenly teased Xian Xing. Xian Xing nodded his head and also regained his senses. He said calmly, "He is indeed monstrous." However, the Flame Emperor also said that this lad borrowed the power of the demon to reach the Emperor realm. He did not rely on his own talent at all. At most, this person has monstrous means. Looking at Xian Xing's stubborn look, Xiao Yuan pursed her lips but did not refute. She knew Xian Xing's character very well. Once he had set his mind on something, even 10 bulls would not be able to pull him back. Mo Lingtian's beautiful eyes looked at Zhuowen with great interest. His heart was also shocked. If what the Flame Emperor said was true, then this young man called Zhuowen was really monstrous. Emperor realm experts were simply unreachable stars to him. Even though his cultivation had reached the supremacy realm, he was still as insignificant as an ant in front of an Emperor realm expert. Perhaps, an Emperor realm expert would only need a single move to kill him. However, this Zhuowen was actually able to fight against an existence like Emperor Qing. This was simply unimaginable. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Although the Qing Xian Empire and the Yan Xian Empire were not far from each other, the territories of the two empires were extremely vast. Passing through one empire was an extremely large distance. However, the Yan Emperor was actually able to know so much about what was happening in the Qing Xian Empire. It seemed that his intelligence was quite terrifying. The Flame Emperor's smile was still warm as he continued, "Now, there is a monstrous talent called Zhuowen in the Yan city of the Yan Xian Empire. I wonder if these two people are the same person." This question was directed at Zhuowen. The Flame Emperor was Zhuowen. Zhuowen was Zhuowen. The Emperor's voice Emperor Yan Xian was Yan's Mo Lingtian. The Yan Xian Xian Xing Tian was Xian. The past is just a passing cloud. Now, I am Zhuowen, a disciple of the Tianfeng demonic palace in the Yan city of the Yan Xian Empire. I am representing the Yan Xian Empire to participate in the Jiaxin Academy's entrance examination, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. The Flame Emperor was stunned. Soon after, he secretly praised Zhuowen's intelligence. He nodded his head and said, "Yes. You are now Zhuowen, a disciple of the Tianfeng demonic palace in the Yan city of the Yan Xian Empire. You are representing the glory of the Yan Xian Empire in the Jiaxin Academy. I am looking forward to your performance." The conversation between Zhuowen and the Flame Emperor confused the others in the square. However, some of the sharper ones were able to catch some important information. "Since the 5 of you are here, I will bring you to the outer yard. However, before we depart, I have to warn you that the geniuses participating in the examination come from various powerful forces in the Eastern land. There are many forces that are much stronger than the Yan Xian Empire. Moreover, the geniuses sent by those powerful forces are far from what you can imagine. They are truly monstrous geniuses. You may be the top geniuses in the Yan Xian Empire, but when you go out, you will discover that you are nothing. Speaking until here, the Flame Emperor cautioned them seriously. After all, he was an Emperor realm expert and had naturally traveled outside before. In the vast eastern land, even an Emperor realm expert like him was nothing. Therefore, he said these words to let the 5 geniuses be mentally prepared in advance. As expected, the vast Yanxian and Qingxian imperial empires are just an insignificant corner of the eastern lands. The outside world is much larger and more exciting than these 2 imperial empires. Hearing the Flame Emperor's advice, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He knew that if he wanted to pursue a higher realm and greater power, he had to go out and become a world-shaking expert. He would only be a weakling if he stayed in a corner. Xian Xing, Zhe Qingfeng, and K2 were extremely excited. Clearly, they were looking forward to a bigger world, more monstrous geniuses, and more intense battles. All of these could stir their blood. On the other hand, Mo Lingtian was much calmer. After all, he was a direct descendant of the Flame Emperor. He knew more about the outside world than the others. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He suddenly stepped out and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, the Flame Emperor. These 5 are my slaves. I wonder if I can bring them to the Fine Gods Academy. Whoosh! Hearing Zhuowen's words, everyone in the square looked at Zhuowen in shock. They even suspected that they had misheard. The 5 heavenly masters were actually Zhuowen's slaves. Originally, when Xiang Tianzuan and the other 4 surrounded Zhuowen, everyone thought that they were subordinates sent by Zhuowen's elders to protect Zhuowen. The 2 of them had an equal relationship. But slaves weren't equal at all. Slaves couldn't disobey their master's orders. Even if their master ordered them to commit suicide, they couldn't resist. Heavenly masters had actually become the slaves of a Supreme Being Junior. This fact was too crazy in everyone's eyes. Even Xian Xing and the others were shocked. Their eyes were filled with a strange light. Those were 5 heavenly master slaves. That was a terrifying force. The Flame Emperor pondered for a moment and said, Actually, it's normal to bring people from your family to participate in the examination. However, once you enter the outer court, you're not allowed to bring people who aren't from the academy. Otherwise, you'll be expelled. I can't enter the Fine Gods Academy. Zhuowen frowned. In fact, placing the 5 heavenly masters in the Azure Dragon Hall was the safest method. However, Zhuowen only had 2 chances to enter the Azure Dragon Hall now. As for the second chance, Zhuowen planned to enter the Azure Dragon Hall when his cultivation reached the Heavenly Master realm. He was only in the Supreme Being realm now. Naturally, he wouldn't waste such a rare opportunity. However, it's said that the outer court has an arcane tower. Inside it are all arcanists recruited by the Fine Gods Academy. Arcanists are actually qualified to bring their slaves into the arcane tower and the outer court, the Flame Emperor said indifferently. Arcane tower. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he cupped his hands once again. The Flame Emperor nodded and continued, the 5 of you, step out. This Emperor is about to activate the teleportation array. This array will teleport you to the outer court. When the time comes, we'll need to borrow some tools to rush to the outer court. As the Flame Emperor spoke, he slowly rose into the air. A terrifying aura surged out, forming an endless hurricane around him. The might of an emperor was fully displayed, causing reverence to rise in everyone's hearts. As for Mo Lingtian, Xian Xing, Zhe Qingfeng, K2, and Zhuowen, the 5 of them, under the envious gazes of countless people in the square, took a step forward and flew into the air. Zhuowen naturally had 5 Empyreans behind him to protect him. As for Xian Xing, Zhe Qingfeng, and K2, they were also accompanied by the leaders of their respective forces. For example, Qing Shuzi of the Clear Void Valley, Daoist Wan Xing of the Myriad Star Palace, and Bouquet of the Five Elements sect. However, their numbers weren't as exaggerated as Zhuowen's. 9 stars of the void, teleport to the void. The Flame Emperor's majestic voice reverberated in the square. Then, everyone was shocked to find that the space thousands of miles above them had collapsed, forming an invisible stairway to heaven. The stairway to heaven was derived from the end of the void. The end of the stairway was even more illusory and dark. No one could see what was at the end of the stairway. Step onto the stairway to heaven. The Flame Emperor's voice rang out again, stirring the hearts of Mo Lingtian, Zhuowen, and the others. Let's go. Mo Lingtian was the first to step onto the stairway to heaven. In an instant, he was thousands of miles away. This stairway to heaven is the void technique. It has truly reached the level of thousands of miles in one step. Xiang Tianzuan, who was beside Zhuowen, exclaimed. The void technique? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. It seemed that the principle of this teleportation array should be the use of the so-called void technique. Let's go up too. Zhuowen said. Following closely behind Mo Lingtian, he took a step forward. Then, Zhuowen felt the wind around him rumble. It was as if they were shuttling through space. In an instant, they appeared thousands of miles away. The void technique allowed one to travel thousands of miles in one step. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with amazement. He took another step forward and turned into a ray of light. He disappeared above the void and swept towards the unknown end of the stairway. The 5 holy sovereigns followed closely behind. With Mo Lingtian and Zhuowen taking the lead, Zui Qingfeng, Xian Xing, K2, and the others did not want to be outdone. They took a step forward and turned into rays of light. Very quickly, they disappeared into the void. Then, the Flame Emperor also stepped onto the stairway. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared before everyone's eyes. Then, the illusory stairway to heaven slowly disappeared as the Flame Emperor left. In a short while, the entire void returned to normal. However, everyone in the square sighed. The void technique in this teleportation array was really magical. One step could travel thousands of miles. Stepping on the stairway to heaven, Zhuowen shuttled through the void. Countless suns, moons, and stars streaked past him. Even if Zhuowen was walking slowly, his speed was still extremely terrifying. The surrounding suns, moons, and stars turned into light spots under this terrifying speed. At this moment, in Zhuowen's eyes, it was a unique and beautiful scenery. I wonder how long it will take to reach the end of this void tunnel. Zhuowen muttered. Only half a day. At that time, we will reach the shore of the Sea of Bitterness. If we want to cross the Sea of Bitterness, we will have to take the boundless sailboat to reach the outer court of Fine God Academy. Chapter 944. Sea of Bitterness. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes as he looked at the Flame Emperor beside him. He felt that the Flame Emperor's attitude towards him was different. Furthermore, the Flame Emperor seemed to know everything about him in the Qing Xian Empire. Perhaps the Flame Emperor noticed the confusion on Zhuowen's face. He smiled faintly and said, I know that you are curious as to why I know you so well, right? Zhuowen nodded and didn't say anything. He stared at the Flame Emperor and waited for him to continue. The relationship between the Yanxian Empire and the Qing Xian Empire isn't very good. You should know this as well. Moreover, the two empires would often have small conflicts. However, they are all harmless small-scale battles. Both sides are still in the stage of probing each other. It is precisely because of this probing that both empires will send spies to secretly hide in the empires to gather information. When you rose to power in the imperial capital as a commoner, I had already noticed you. The Flame Emperor sighed as he said this. He had specially investigated Zhuowen's background back then. He was actually from a lowly clan in a low-level city. I don't need to say what happened after that. Your rise was very fast and very shocking. The 5 holy venerables behind you are the 5 holy venerables of the Qing Xian Empire's royal family, right? The Flame Emperor glanced meaningfully at the 5 celestial venerables behind Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded and said, "It seems that the Flame Emperor knows me well. I'm flattered. I don't know you in detail. It is just a rough estimate. After all, the 2 empires aren't as close as you think. However, the sensational things you did back then were really unbelievable," the Flame Emperor continued. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. "Your Majesty Flame Emperor, I believe that a martial emperor like you wouldn't be speaking so casually to a venerable junior like me, right? Ha! You are indeed a smart person. Now that you have completely fallen out with the Qing Xian Empire, I'm afraid that the Azure Emperor will not let you off. Now that you are representing my Yan Xian Empire to participate in the Jia Shan Academy's outer court exam." At this point, the Flame Emperor did not finish his sentence. He knew that Zhuowen was a smart person and naturally knew what he was going to say next. Zhuowen shook his head decisively and said, "If your Majesty wants me to join the Yan Xian Empire, then forget it. However, if your Majesty the Flame Emperor wants to take down the Qing Xian Empire, I will definitely do my best to help your Yan Xian Empire once I have achieved something in the academy." Zhuowen's words were watertight. First, he tactfully rejected the Flame Emperor's request to join the Yan Xian Empire. Then, he promised to help the Yan Xian Empire in dealing with the Qing Xian Empire in the future, giving the Flame Emperor a way out. The Flame Emperor's eyes revealed a trace of pity, but he wasn't too disappointed. He knew that a genius like Zhuowen was destined to not be content with staying in one corner. His previous question was just to test him. Zhuowen had high awareness and took the initiative to say that he would help the Yan Xian Empire to take down the Qing Xian Empire after he had achieved something in the academy. After all, the 2 empires were too close to each other. If a conflict erupted in the future, there would definitely be a war. With a monstrous genius like Zhuowen joining, the Flame Emperor believed that the success rate of taking down the Qing Xian Empire would be extremely high. "Zhuowen, with your potential and talent, the speed of your rise should be very fast. I believe that the Qing Xian Empire's destruction won't be too far away," the Flame Emperor said with a smile. Zhuowen cursed in his heart for being a sly old fox, but he didn't reject the Flame Emperor's suggestion. Even if the Flame Emperor didn't say it, Zhuowen would return to the Qing Xian Empire in the future when he was strong enough to go against the Azure Emperor. Now that he had the Flame Emperor's cooperation, the pressure on Zhuowen would be greatly reduced. This was a win-win proposition, so why wouldn't he accept it? "Your Majesty the Flame Emperor. When the time comes for the outer yard assessment, the Azure Emperor should be there too, right?" Zhuowen asked with a cold gaze. The Flame Emperor nodded and said, "Of course. Without the means and protection of the Emperor realm, it's impossible to activate this void formation. However, I think it's better for you to change your appearance during the assessment. The Azure Emperor isn't a good person. If you're caught, I won't be able to save you even if I intervene." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes flickered, and he nodded. His facial muscles immediately wriggled, and he turned into a sickly youth with a sallow complexion. Even his sharp aura became sickly, and it was impossible to tell that this person was actually the Zhuowen who had shown off his ability. What a strange secret technique. Even his aura has completely changed. The Flame Emperor raised his eyebrows and muttered in surprise. The 2 of them chatted in the void passageway as they moved forward slowly. It seemed slow, but in the blink of an eye, they had traversed thousands of miles. During the conversation, Zhuowen had a rough understanding of the Jia Shan Academy's entrance examination. He also had a certain understanding of the entire Eastern Land. It turned out that in the Eastern Land, there were countless imperial forces like the Qing Xian Empire and the Yan Xian Empire. The Yan Xian Empire and the Qing Xian Empire were the weaker forces among the many empires. Many of the more powerful empires had more than one emperor realm expert, but many of them In addition to the imperial forces, there were many intricate sects and forces in the eastern land. These sects and forces were many times stronger than the few sects in the Yan Xian Empire. They were powerful existences comparable to the imperial forces and had extremely deep foundations. These countless powerful forces would fight to send their disciples into the ninth netherworld realm every year. This was because the ninth netherworld realm was the only place in the entire eastern land that had powerful saints. The ninth netherworld realm was filled with endless mysteries. It also contained countless opportunities and luck. If one's talent wasn't too bad, the warriors who entered the ninth netherworld realm could at least reach the emperor realm. Some of the stronger ones could even reach the half-saint realm. Their might could dominate the world, and their names would spread throughout the world. The ninth netherworld realm was the paradise of the eastern land's martial artists. The Jiaxin Academy's outer court was the fastest shortcut for young martial artists to enter the ninth netherworld realm. Of course, there were other ways to enter the ninth netherworld realm other than the Jiaxin Academy's outer court. However, these methods required a high price, and one's strength had to reach the emperor realm. This method was usually used by the old monsters of the major forces who wanted to enter the ninth netherworld realm to gain experience. Young martial artists generally joined the Jiaxin Academy's outer court and used the outer court as a medium to enter the ninth netherworld realm. Moreover, from the Flame Emperor's words, Zhuowen keenly discovered that among the numerous forces outside the ninth netherworld realm, there were 7 forces that were above all other forces. These 7 forces were the 4 great sacred dynasties and the 3 great sects. The 4 great sacred dynasties were the Alcade Sacred Dynasty, the Blue Whale Sacred Dynasty, the Divine Arm Sacred Dynasty, and the Burning Flame Sacred Dynasty. The 3 great sects were the Myriad Sword Sect, the Cold Moon Palace, and the Yellow Mystery Sect. These 7 forces had the deepest foundations outside the ninth netherworld realm. They were also recognized as the 7 strongest forces by many forces. Moreover, it was said that these 7 forces were secretly controlled by the forces of the ninth netherworld realm. The 4 great sacred dynasties, the 3 great sects, and the Jiaxin Academy's outer court. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. This was the world that a martial artist should pursue. It was vast, powerful, and filled with experts. Half a day passed quickly. Soon, Zhuowen followed the Flame Emperor and stepped out of the void corridor. Then, a ray of blazing sunlight shone on them. Zhuowen couldn't help but squint his eyes. After a long time, he opened them again. What appeared in front of Zhuowen was a huge desert area. In this area, barren Gobi Desert could be seen everywhere, as well as old and dilapidated buildings that had been eroded away by the wind. Thousands of miles in front of this desert area, Zhuowen saw a boundless black ocean. The strange thing was that the black ocean was suspended thousands of miles high in the sky. Below the ocean was a misty black fog. The black fog was deep and serene, as if it could devour everything. It gave Zhuowen a terrifying feeling that made his hair stand on end. Behind Zhuowen, the sky stairway in the void began to slowly dissipate and eventually returned to its original appearance. Mo Lingtian, Xian Xing, and the others stood not far ahead and waited. At this moment, when they saw Zhuowen and the Flame Emperor come out, they all clustered around them. "You are Brother Zhuo?" Mo Lingtian looked at the sallow-faced youth in front of him, then looked at the 5 holy masters behind him and asked uncertainly. "He is indeed Zhuowen." However, in order to avoid some unnecessary trouble, he used a secret technique to change his appearance, the Flame Emperor explained with a smile. Mo Lingtian and the others nodded. They didn't think too much about this issue, nor did they ask about the so-called unnecessary trouble that the Flame Emperor had mentioned. Swoosh! 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 Zhuowen and the others were surprised to find that 7 void stairways had appeared in the sky above them. 7 teams stepped out of the void stairways. The 7 teams looked at each other fearfully, then distanced themselves from each other and flew towards the south. Their direction and purpose were obviously the same. They should be teams from other forces that have come to participate in the outer court assessment. Looking at the 7 teams that had left, the Flame Emperor said softly, "Let's go too." Thousands of miles away in the south, there is a barren ancient city. There, we can take the boundless sailboat to cross the Sea of Misery. So, this is the Sea of Misery. Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the enormous black sea that hung in the sky. The size of the Sea of Misery had clearly exceeded his expectations. Mo Lingtian and the others' expressions weren't any better than Zhuo Wen's. "Your Majesty, can't we pass through the Sea of Misery directly? Must we take the boundless sailboat to cross the Sea of Misery?" Qing Shuzi, who was standing beside Zui Qingfeng, suddenly asked. The Flame Emperor shook his head and said, "The black fog under the Sea of Misery is called Hell by warriors. There is no return after entering it. Even an Emperor realm expert will die after entering." Chapter 945. Desolate Ancient City. The ancient city of desolation, as its name suggested, was barren inside. Not even a blade of grass grew. The surface of the huge yellow walls that were hundreds of feet tall had cracks on them. It looked like it had existed for a very long time. Whoosh! Whoosh! Numerous figures flashed past from afar, heading towards the desolate ancient city. Although the desolate ancient city was in a dilapidated state, it was bustling with people. It was many times larger and more prosperous than Yen City. Under the Flame Emperor's lead, Zhuowen and the rest also rushed towards the desolate ancient city. When they saw the huge crowd in the ancient city and the terrifying aura that was emitted from time to time, Zhuowen and the rest were stunned. They realized that the ancient city was filled with powerful auras of the 4 supremacy realm experts. There was even a majestic Emperor Qi among them. It was obvious that there were many martial emperors among them. When you enter the desolate ancient city, keep a low profile and don't cause trouble. The ancient desolate city is the only port in the Sea of Bitterness that leads to the outer court of the excellent Divine Academy. Furthermore, some of the powerful martial artists of the eastern lands, in order to go to the 9th netherworld realm, also use the boundless sailboat in the ancient desolate city. Therefore, there are many powerful martial artists inside. Your strength might be considered top-notch in the Yenxian Empire, but in the desolate ancient city, you are nothing. Once you offend someone you shouldn't offend, it will be a disaster that will lead to your doom. The desolate ancient city was a terrifying place. Even a great emperor like the Flame Emperor didn't dare act recklessly in there. He had to be very careful. Mo Lingtian, Zhuowen, and the others all nodded. The Yen Emperor was right. There were indeed many experts in the ancient desolate city, and many of them had auras that they could not see through. Obviously, the cultivation of these warriors was much higher than theirs. As they approached the ancient city, Zhuowen suddenly discovered that the surroundings of the ancient city were shrouded in countless fine blue threads. These blue threads interweaved together to form a magnificent and strange pattern. This is a restriction. In the desolate ancient city, if there wasn't a powerful restriction to protect it, the Sea of Bitterness in front of it would create a tsunami and this huge ancient city wouldn't have survived until now. Perhaps because he saw the astonishment in the eyes of Zhuowen and the rest, the Flame Emperor explained patiently. Everyone nodded in understanding. It seemed like the seals of the desolate ancient city weren't ordinary. From the Flame Emperor's words, Zhuowen knew how terrifying the Bitter Sea was. Ordinary Emperor realm experts wouldn't dare to touch the Bitter Sea casually. One could imagine how terrifying it was. After paying a certain amount of spirit stones, the Flame Emperor led Zhuowen and the others into the ancient city. The bustling scene of the ancient city was completely presented before everyone's eyes. Regardless of the number or quality of warriors, the desolate ancient city was countless times better than Yen City. The core of the desolate ancient city was the huge tower that sat in the center of the ancient city. The surface of the tower was engraved with densely packed strange runes. These runes seemed to contain a powerful force. At the top of the tower, there were wisps of blue light condensing. These blue light soared into the sky and spread in all directions, forming a blue restriction around the ancient city. Obviously, the source of the restriction around the desolate ancient city was the central tower. There must be an arcanist with an extremely high cultivation in the tower, maintaining the restriction on the tower. The tower is called the Boundless Tower. It is the port where the boundless sailboat departs from. If we want to cross the Sea of Bitterness, we must depart from the Boundless Tower. Let's go to the Boundless Tower and see if we can cross the Sea of Bitterness on the boundless sailboat today. The Flame Emperor pointed at the central tower. He introduced it to Zhuoan and the others as he led them to the Boundless Tower. The Flame Emperor and his group naturally attracted the attention of many warriors on the way, especially when they saw the 5 young juniors behind the Flame Emperor. They all understood that this group of people was preparing to head to the outer court of the Divine Academy. After all, the outer court entrance examination of the Divine Academy was about to begin. Therefore, during this period of time, all the major forces of the Eastern Land brought their juniors to the desolate ancient city to cross the Sea of Bitterness on the boundless sailboat. Therefore, the surrounding warriors were not surprised. The Flame Emperor did not pay attention to the surrounding discussions. With his Emperor Realm aura, no one dared to provoke his group. After all, offending an Emperor Realm expert for no reason was not worth the loss. Soon, the Flame Emperor and his group arrived near the Boundless Tower. They saw that there were rows of small windows on the bottom floor of the Boundless Tower. Inside the small windows were warriors on the first floor of the tower. These warriors were probably receptionists because many warriors were near the windows and were discussing something with the warriors inside the windows. The Flame Emperor led Zhuoan and the others to an empty window. A tall and slender woman with a voluptuous figure was sitting at the window. She stared at the Flame Emperor and the people behind him indifferently and said, "You want to reserve the boundless sailboat?" "Yes. I wonder if the boundless sailboat can depart today." The Flame Emperor nodded and asked. The woman shook her head and said indifferently, "We can't depart today. The earliest we can depart is tomorrow. Because tonight, the Sea of Bitterness will erupt with a huge tsunami that will last for the entire night. If you want to take the boundless sailboat, you can only book a ticket for tomorrow." The Sea of Bitterness is going to erupt with a tsunami tonight? The Flame Emperor frowned slightly and said, "Then book a ticket for tomorrow." The woman nodded and continued, "The boundless sailboat has a special class cabin, a first-class cabin, a second-class cabin, and a third-class cabin. Which cabin do you want to choose? What's the difference between the 4 cabins?" The Flame Emperor frowned slightly. It was his first time taking the boundless sailboat and he didn't know much about it. The woman stared at the Flame Emperor in surprise. Although there was a trace of impatience in her eyes, she reluctantly explained since the Flame Emperor was an Emperor Realm expert, 4th-class cabins naturally have different treatment. The higher the class cabin, the bigger the room space, and the more comprehensive the services provided. As she spoke, the woman pulled with her right hand and a light screen floated in front of the Flame Emperor and the others. The introduction of the 4 cabins and their respective prices are recorded here. Take a good look and let me know when you've made your choice. After the woman finished speaking, she ignored the Flame Emperor and the others. The Flame Emperor and the people behind him all looked at the light screen. However, after looking at it for a while, their faces turned ugly because the price of the boundless sailboat's cabin was so high that it was somewhat beyond their expectations. Take the 3rd-class cabin as an example. The ticket price for one person was 100,000 upper spiritual stones, the 2nd-class cabin was 300,000 upper spiritual stones, the 1st-class cabin was 500,000 upper spiritual stones, and the special-class cabin was 1,000,000 upper spiritual stones. With such a huge ticket price, even the Flame Emperor's face turned a little green. The force behind the boundless sailboat was too greedy. It was just a trip to the Sea of Bitterness, and they charged such a high price. 2 first-class tickets, please. The Flame Emperor's eyes flickered. With a wave of his sleeve, he took out a sparkling emerald crystal. The woman put away the green crystal, and her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of excitement. She nodded, took out 2 rather exquisite cards, and handed them to the Flame Emperor. Her tone also became much more polite. These are 2 first-class tickets. My lord, please keep them well. After keeping the 2 tickets, the Flame Emperor pulled Mo Lingtian to the side and stared at the people behind him without saying a word. It was obvious that the Flame Emperor didn't intend to pay the fare for them. What is that? 1 crystal is worth 1 million upper spiritual stones. Zhuowen was a little surprised by the crystal that the Flame Emperor took out and muttered to himself. That is a star crystal. It is formed from the power of the stars and contains extremely pure power of the stars. This thing can only be refined by an Emperor realm expert. However, His Majesty the Flame Emperor is only at the first heaven Emperor realm. He can't refine many star crystals, so he won't take it out easily. This thing is very valuable. 1 star crystal is worth 1 million upper spiritual stones, and it's the kind that has a price but no market. Suddenly, Xian Xing passed by Zhuowen and her clear voice rang in Zhuowen's mind. Looking at Xian Xing's graceful back, Zhuowen knew that the owner of the voice should be Xian Xing, star crystal. This was the first time Zhuowen heard of this thing. However, it seemed that this thing was quite beneficial to warriors. Boy! The star crystal is a good thing. If you can obtain enough star crystals, you can refine the power of the stars and experience the power of the stars. This can greatly increase your chances of advancing to the Emperor realm. Xiao Hei's voice rang in Zhuowen's mind again. However, there was a hint of hope in her voice. After the Flame Emperor bought the tickets, the 1,000-star palace's Xian Xing and his elders, as well as the 5 elements sects K2 and sect Master Bu K also bought tickets. However, the 1,000-star palace and the 5 elements sect were not as rich as the Flame Emperor and only bought second-class tickets. When it was Zui Qingfeng and Qing Shuzi's turn, Qing Shuzi's face was extremely ugly. This was because after their Qing Su Valley was robbed by Zhuowen, they did not have many spiritual stones on them. 2 third-class tickets, please. Qing Su's face turned red as he said this. The woman at the window looked at Qing Shuzi with some disdain. After taking Qing Shuzi's spiritual stones, she threw the 2 third-class tickets to Qing Shuzi. Perhaps because he felt the woman's disdainful gaze, Qing Shuzi took the tickets and went to the Flame Emperor's side dejectedly. However, he was cursing Zhuowen in his heart. If it were not for Zhuowen, they would not have been reduced to the point where they could only buy third-class tickets. When it was Zhuowen's turn, Zhuowen lazily handed a qiankuan bag to the woman at the window and said, 6 third-class tickets. 6. The woman was stunned. Then, she saw Xiang Tianzuan and the other 4 standing behind Zhuowen. She nodded and took out 6 tickets and threw them to Zhuowen. Zhuowen casually accepted them and went to the Flame Emperor's side naturally. Chapter 946. Damaged Emperor Weapon. After purchasing the tickets, the Flame Emperor led everyone to an inn in the desolate ancient city. They were prepared to stay there for the night. As for the Divine Academy's outer court examination, it was said that the examination would last for half a month. Therefore, even if Zhuowen and the others did not make it on the first day of the examination, it was fine. After all, there was still half a month, so everyone was not particularly worried. What was worth noting was that the accommodation fee in the ancient desolate city was extremely expensive. It actually cost 5 high-grade spirit stones to stay for a night. Moreover, each room was extremely simple and crude. As for Zhuowen, because he had 5 celestial venerables with him, he had to pay 6 times the price. Fortunately, because Zhuowen had robbed the Shaoyan family clan and the Clear Void Valley, he was quite wealthy and did not feel any heartache. However, Qing Su Zi and Zui Qingfeng's faces were dark from beginning to end. In fact, after paying for the tickets, they did not have many spirit stones left. Now that the accommodation in the ancient desolate city was so expensive, the two of them naturally felt embarrassed. Helpless, the two of them resolutely booked a room under the strange gazes of the crowd and slept on the same bed in order to save spirit stones. After arranging their rooms, the Flame Emperor smiled at everyone and said, "The ancient desolate city is very big. There are many experts in it, and some experts will sell their useless things to earn some money. If you are interested, you can stroll around the streets of the ancient city. Who knows, you might be able to find some good things." The Flame Emperor's words were very obvious. After all, the ancient desolate city was not like the Yan Xian Empire. There were even many Emperor realm experts here. The useless things of these experts could be considered treasures to the four heavenly sovereigns. Therefore, they could try their luck. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen, Mo Lingtian, and the other members of the younger generation all revealed a bright light in their eyes. If they were able to find some good stuff here, it would definitely be extremely beneficial. "Brother Zhuo, why don't we go shopping together?" The devilishly beautiful Mo Lingtian walked in front of Zhuowen and revealed a faint smile as he said to Zhuowen. Looking at Mo Lingtian, who was more beautiful than a woman, Zhuowen felt a little strange. Perhaps it was because he knew too much in his previous life. Anyway, standing beside Mo Lingtian made Zhuowen feel uncomfortable. "Brother Lingtian, you're too polite. I'm used to being alone." Zhuowen chuckled and hurriedly left the inn. The smile on Mo Lingtian's face froze. He touched his face and felt a little depressed. He felt that Zhuowen seemed to be avoiding him. Was he really that terrifying? Naturally, Zhuowen didn't know what Mo Lingtian was thinking. At this moment, he walked out of the inn and headed towards the southeast of the ancient city. Previously, the Flame Emperor had already told everyone the location of the stall, so Zhuowen didn't need to ask for directions and could reach the destination directly. In the southeast of the ancient barren city was an extremely huge and grand street. The width of the street alone was close to 100 meters, and its length was impossible to estimate. Anyway, from Zhuowen's angle, he couldn't see the end. All he could see was people coming and going. Everywhere on the street, there were stalls that were not small. Some of the larger stalls even had more domineering signboards in front of them, such as the 100 Treasures Pavilion, Hidden Gold House, Transforming Dragon Talk, and so on. In fact, they were just stalls in a small area. So many experts. As soon as he entered this huge street, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Most of the warriors walking on this street were heavenly masters, and there were even Emperor realm experts. However, there were still relatively few Emperor realm experts. Occasionally, there would be a few who would pass through the crowd. Most of the stalls on the street were for venerable realm warriors. Looking around, Zhuowen hadn't found any Emperor realm experts setting up stalls here. However, after thinking about it, Emperor realm experts didn't lack spiritual stones and money at all. Very few Emperor realm experts would set up stalls. However, there were always exceptions. Perhaps some Emperor realm experts needed spiritual stones urgently, so they might set up stalls temporarily to sell treasures. Of course, such experts would easily attract the attention of many warriors if they set up stalls. Moreover, they wouldn't set up stalls for too long. After selling their goods, they would leave. Therefore, it wasn't common to encounter such experts setting up stalls. Zhuowen naturally wouldn't deliberately look for Emperor realm expert stalls. Instead, he followed the crowd and constantly looked at the stalls on both sides. If he saw something good, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't let it go. After all, he was now rich. There's an Emperor realm expert setting up a stall there. Let's go and take a look. Even if it's useless to an Emperor realm expert, it might be a treasure to us. What? An Emperor realm expert setting up a stall. This is the first time in half a year. I haven't seen an Emperor realm expert setting up a stall in this ancient city for a long time. Suddenly, there was a commotion not far ahead. Then, many warriors who were walking leisurely on the street hurriedly walked forward and surrounded the central stall a few hundred meters ahead. The stall was also extraordinary. There was a faint vision above it, but this vision was suppressed by someone. Zhuowen knew that only an Emperor Realm expert could produce a vision in one's body. Obviously, the owner of this vision was indeed an Emperor Realm expert. Interesting. Let's go and take a look. His eyes flashing, Zhuowen took a step and went deep into the crowd. Soon, he arrived in front of the stall. The stall was very small, only an inch in size. The ground was covered with a checkered cloth. There was a rusty long spear on the stall. Even the tip of the spear seemed to be broken. The body of the spear should originally have patterns, but because of the surrounding rust, the patterns on the body of the spear were covered up. Although the broken spear was very old and rusted beyond recognition, the aura that was faintly revealed from this long spear was quite powerful, faintly having the majesty of an emperor. This is an emperor weapon. And it's a broken emperor weapon. The surrounding cultivators were all extraordinary people. With a single glance, they could see the majestic emperor's aura emanating from the broken spear. This spear had once fought alongside an Emperor Realm expert. The emperor's aura was the aura left behind by the owner of this spear. At this moment, many of the surrounding warriors were tempted. Although the spear was broken, it was still an emperor weapon. Although it couldn't be used, it could be used for research. As for the owner of this stall, he was a black-clothed man with a cold expression. This man's eyes were extremely sharp, as if they were sharp swords. If a cultivator with a weak mind were to look into his eyes, it was likely that their mind would be injured. This man is very strong. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. In Zhuowen's eyes, the black-clothed man in front of him was like an indestructible sword. Just by standing there, he gave Zhuowen the illusion that this person was not a person, but an unsheathed sword. This spear has no name. I obtained it by accident. It's an emperor weapon. The price is 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones. If you don't want it, you can get lost. The black-clothed man said coldly. He stood in front of the broken spear and his eyes narrowed, no longer paying attention to the surrounding people. Looking at the cold man in front of him, Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders. This man was really overbearing. Although his overbearing way of doing things made many people unhappy, no one dared to refute him because he was an Emperor Realm expert. 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones, isn't that too expensive? This price is enough to buy a top-grade Emperor Realm spiritual treasure. Although this spear is an emperor weapon, it was once an emperor weapon. Now it's broken to such an extent that it can't be used at all. It's difficult to even repair it. How can you sell it at such a high price? After the cold man stated the price, the crowd quieted down. Many people shook their heads and felt that the price was too high. This broken spear was not worth this price. Zhuowen also shook his head. He also felt that the price was too high. Although the spear was an invincible emperor weapon, it was now broken to such a terrible extent. It was not worth 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones. After a moment of silence, a man finally walked out. He was quite old and his hair was white. There was a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Moreover, what attracted people's attention was that his aura was as vast as the sea. He was extremely powerful. He was actually an Emperor Realm expert. This brother, you've also seen this Emperor artifact. The degree of damage is too severe. You're asking for 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones. How about this, you can reduce the price to 500,000 and I'll buy this broken emperor weapon. The man smiled and said. The surrounding people nodded. This man was also an Emperor Realm expert. The cold man should give him face. Unfortunately, the cold man only glanced at the middle-aged man indifferently and spat out a word, "Get lost." Once the words came out, the crowd quieted down again. The middle-aged man with white hair was also stunned. Immediately, his face turned red and he said in a low voice, "Aren't you too arrogant? We're both Emperor Realm experts. Are you not going to give me face at all? You're just a first-level Emperor Realm trash. How dare you say that in front of me? Get lost or die." The cold-looking man slowly stood up. His sharp eyes actually surged with strands of terrifying sword light. At this moment, the man was like an unsheathed sharp sword, peerless and insufferably arrogant, as if he could cut through everything. Dang dang dang. Under this sharp aura, the surrounding cultivators all took dozens of steps back. The middle-aged man was in a miserable state. He fell flat on his face and then slid a few hundred meters away. Hua! An uproar suddenly resounded. When everyone's eyes gathered on the cold man again, their expressions finally changed. The middle-aged man with white hair was a first-level Emperor Realm expert. However, under the cold man's aura, he fell flat on his face. Wasn't this too unbelievable? Is this man a high-level Emperor Realm expert? My God, there's actually a high-level Emperor Realm expert in the desolate ancient city. Chapter 947. What a prodigal act. A high-level great emperor expert. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at the cold man. Although he knew that the man was an emperor, he didn't expect him to be so strong. The white-haired middle-aged man was a great emperor on the same level as the Flame Emperor, but he fell flat on his face in the face of this man's aura. The difference between them was too great. The Imperial Power Realm was divided into 9 levels. The first 3 levels were low-level, the middle 3 levels were mid-level, and the last 3 levels were high-level. This meant that the cold man was a 7th-level emperor. Everyone knew that the difference of a single minor level in the Imperial region was like the difference between heaven and earth. Furthermore, breaking through to the next minor level was much harder than breaking through to the 4th level. This was also the reason why there weren't many great emperors in the eastern lands. Of course, this was only relative to the huge number of cultivators in the eastern lands. In the 9 Nether Realm, Emperor Realm cultivators could be found everywhere. However, high-level Emperor Realm cultivators were not that easy to find. This was because only 1 in 10,000 cultivators could cultivate to the high-level Emperor Realm. To put it bluntly, if this indifferent man faced Emperor Qing, he would only need 1 move to kill Emperor Qing. The middle-aged man quickly got up and cupped his hands at the cold man. "Thank you for your mercy. I'll leave now." With that, the middle-aged man scrambled away from the stall. A Emperor Realm expert was scared to such an extent in front of the cold man. This showed that the cold man was extraordinary. The indifferent man did not pay any attention to the middle-aged man who looked like a stray dog. Instead, he stood in front of the stall again and pointed with his right hand. A palm-sized light screen floated above the broken spear. The light screen recorded the price of the spear, 1 million high-grade spirit stones. After doing this, the cold man sat cross-legged on the stall as if nothing had happened. He closed his eyes and ignored the surrounding cultivators. Perhaps it was because the cold man had forced a low-level Emperor Realm expert to retreat with a shout, so more people gathered around. Among them, there was no lack of powerful Emperor Realm experts. However, when the gathered cultivators saw the unrecognizable spear on the stall and the price on the light screen, they all shook their heads. No one called out a price. Although an Emperor weapon was precious, it was damaged to such an extent. At most, it had some research value. Many people felt that it wasn't worth it to pay 1 million high-grade spirit stones for such research value. Therefore, although the stall here was as crowded as a marketplace, no one opened their mouth to make a bid. The atmosphere was extremely strange. Zhuowen shook his head and thought, this person is really arrogant. He just put the spear on the stall and didn't care about it. Why would anyone buy it at such a high price? Although Zhuowen himself was also a spear user, the damage to this spear was too horrible to look at. Coupled with the terrifying price, Zhuo Wen did not participate in the bidding. After all, in his opinion, buying this broken spear was not worth the loss. Kid! Buy this spear. Suddenly, Xiao Hei's voice rang out, startling Zhuo Wen. Immediately, Zhuo Wen's face turned red and he transmitted his voice to Xiao Hei. Xiao Hei, what are you talking about? You want me to buy this broken spear? That's 1 million high-grade spirit stones. Kid, you have so many spirit stones on you now. What are you afraid of? It's not like you can't take out 1 million high-grade spirit stones. Xiao Hei said with some displeasure. Zhuo Wen was speechless. He gritted his teeth and said, but you can't be so wasteful. Spending 1 million upper-rank spirit stones just to buy such a lousy spear. Isn't this throwing spirit stones away? What do you know? This broken spear is indeed damaged. However, this spear has an extraordinary origin. I suspect that this spear hides some kind of secret. Xiao Hei said seriously. Extraordinary origin? What extraordinary origin does this emperor weapon have? Zhuo Wen was startled and immediately asked curiously. If this emperor weapon was really extraordinary, he could spend a lot of money to buy it. Xiao Hei's voice was silent for a moment. Then, he smiled awkwardly and said, actually, I don't know either. However, my intuition tells me that this emperor weapon is not simple. Don't you believe in my intuition? Hearing this, Zhuo Wen was silent for a moment. Then, he roared in his heart, intuition. Are you lying to a 3-year-old child? Just because of your intuition, you want me to spend 1 million high-grade spirit stones to buy something that might be a piece of junk? Can you be any more prodigal? Xiao Hei curled his lips and did not refute. Instead, he muttered in a low voice, anyway, it's not my money. It won't hurt to spend it. Xiao Hei's words almost made Zhuo Wen explode. This prodigal thing really did not know how to speak. However, after calming down, Zhuo Wen began to silently examine the broken spear on the stall. Since Xiao Hei had said so, it was obvious that this broken emperor weapon was indeed extraordinary. However, no matter how extraordinary it was already broken to such a state. It was no different from trash. Therefore, Zhuo Wen was somewhat hesitant to buy this broken spear. In the process of carefully examining it, Zhuo Wen quickly noticed the patterns on the body of the spear. The patterns had been eroded by time and had become rusty. It was basically impossible to see their original appearance. However, Zhuo Wen discovered that these rusty patterns were not ordinary. Therefore, Zhuo Wen's gaze was fixed on the patterns on the spear. Gradually, Zhuo Wen discovered that the originally blurry patterns began to become clearer and clearer. In the end, the patterns turned into a black rune. This black rune faintly revealed a demonic aura. This is a demonic pattern. Looking at the black rune, Zhuo Wen naturally felt the demonic aura within the rune. This kind of rune could only be carved by a devil. Furthermore, when this demonic pattern appeared clearly in Zhuo Wen's mind, Zhuo Wen discovered that the Buddha demon eye hidden in his sea of consciousness actually trembled and automatically switched to the demonic eye. Wisps of black gas drilled out from Zhuo Wen's glabella. The demonic eye seemed to want to drill out of Zhuo Wen's body and rush towards the broken spear. Not good. I have to stop the Buddha demon eye. Zhuo Wen's expression turned serious. He quickly controlled the powerful mental strength in his sea of consciousness and turned it into thousands of threads. He forcefully pulled back the demonic eye that was about to drill out. At the same time, Zhuo Wen no longer looked at the patterns on the spear body. The patterns on the spear body were demonic patterns that contained an extremely powerful demonic aura. Because Zhuo Wen possessed the Buddha demon eye, he could see through the patterns and see the essence within. The cold-looking man seemed to have discovered something. He frowned slightly and slowly opened his eyes. There was a sharp sword light in his eyes. Then, his gaze landed on Zhuo Wen in the corner of the stall. However, when he discovered that the young man in front of him was only a supremacy, the cold-looking man narrowed his eyes and muttered in a low voice, "What happened just now? I actually felt a powerful demonic aura. Was it an illusion?" The cold-looking man looked deeply at Zhuowen, then closed his eyes again, as if there was no one else around. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was extremely nervous. This cold-looking man was indeed a high-level Great Emperor expert. He was actually able to sense the demonic aura on him among so many people. Fortunately, he had managed to control the demonic eye in time. If he had allowed the demonic eye to come out, Zhuowen would have definitely become the target of public criticism. At that time, he would really be finished. Xiao He. This broken spear is indeed extraordinary. I've decided to buy it, Zhuowen said to Xiao He inwardly. Xiao He had also sensed the abnormality in Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. He nodded and said, "It seems that this Dragon Lord's intuition is as accurate as ever. You didn't believe me just now. How sad." Zhuowen shrugged and ignored the sighing Xiao He. Instead, he came to the front of the stall and gently stroked the surface of the broken spear with his right hand. Zhuowen's actions naturally attracted the attention of countless people around. The cold-looking man suddenly opened his eyes and stared sharply at Zhuowen. He said indifferently, "You want to buy it?" Zhuowen nodded and said, "I'm also an expert spear user. Furthermore, I've never seen a spear-type emperor weapon before. Therefore, I want to buy this spear and study it properly. Perhaps it can be of help to my spear skills." Uproar. When Zhuowen's words came out, an uproar broke out in the surroundings. Many people stared strangely at Zhuowen as if they were staring at a prodigal son. Who is this kid? He's actually so rich to spend 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones to buy a broken emperor weapon. Isn't that too extravagant? He's a sovereign at such a young age. He's also a rare genius. I'm afraid that he's the young master of some great family and doesn't lack spirit stones. Many people in the surroundings secretly shook their heads, thinking that Zhuowen was simply a prodigal son. However, only Zhuowen knew that this broken emperor weapon actually contained powerful demonic patterns. It was very obvious that this was no ordinary emperor weapon. The cold-looking man's gaze turned extremely sharp as he asked again, "Is that why you bought it?" Zhuowen calmly looked at the former and nodded, naturally. "Does Senior think that I have the ability to repair this emperor weapon? Do you think that I can repair it and use it for myself after buying it?" When these words came out, many people in the surroundings roared with laughter. How could it be so easy to cultivate an emperor weapon? Moreover, this emperor weapon was broken to such an extent that even if they invited an experienced arcanist, it would be difficult to completely repair it. Zhuowen's somewhat laughable words immediately made many people in the surroundings make up their minds. This kid was definitely a prodigal son who bought this broken emperor weapon on impulse. Many people even maliciously guessed that after this kid bought this emperor weapon, he would soon regret it. The cold-looking man nodded and said, "Since you want to buy it, take out the spirit stones first." Zhuowen didn't mind. After taking out 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones from his spirit ring and handing them to the cold-looking man, he played with the broken spear in his hand. "Wait." Chapter 948. Jian Mu. Everyone followed the voice and immediately saw a group of people walking over from not far away. The leader of this group was a young man with an arrogant expression and a high chin. Beside the young man was a beautiful woman with an enchanting figure and rippling eyes. The lovely shout from before was emitted by this girl. The young man in the lead was unmoved when he sensed the astonished gazes of the crowd. He steadily led the group of people behind him to the front of the stall. He indifferently glanced at Zhuowen and pointed at the broken spear in Zhuowen's hand. He turned his head and said to the girl beside him, "Chun Hui. Is this the emperor weapon?" The enchanting woman named Chun Hui purposely rubbed against the young man's arm. Her ample bosom swayed slightly, attracting the attention of many people. She said in a sweet voice, "Yes. I really want to study the structure of this broken emperor weapon. This thing is suitable for me to experiment with." Hearing this, the crowd knew that the enchanting woman's prodigal nature was no less than Zhuowen's. She actually planned to spend 1,000,000 upper spirit stones to buy this broken spear for research. The young man nodded and immediately ignored Zhuowen completely. His gaze landed on the indifferent man and he said respectfully, "Senior. How much is this broken emperor weapon? What's the price?" The indifferent man in front of him had a powerful aura. Even the arrogant young man did not dare to show the slightest disrespect. The indifferent man glanced at the young man and said, "I've already sold this item to this little brother. Why are you looking for me?" The young man was startled and immediately looked at Zhuowen. He spread out his right hand and said indifferently, "This thing is useless to you. Sell it to me at a price." Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. The young man's behavior was somewhat condescending. Moreover, his tone was commanding, giving an unquestionable feeling. This made Zhuowen feel quite uncomfortable. In addition, the young man knew that the emperor weapon was in Zhuowen's hands. He ignored him at first and asked the indifferent man first. After the indifferent man answered, the young man slowly turned to Zhuowen and directly wanted to buy the spear in his hand. Zhuowen raised the corner of his mouth and said indifferently, "If you want to buy this emperor weapon, then buy it with 10,000,000 upper spirit stones." As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar in the crowd. Zhuowen was too greedy. He bought it for 1,000,000 upper spirit stones and now he wanted to sell it for 10,000,000 upper spirit stones. Who would buy it at such a price? Sure enough, as soon as Zhuowen's words came out, the arrogant young man's face stiffened and said coldly, "What did you just say? You dare to sell this broken emperor weapon for 10,000,000 upper spirit stones? Didn't you say that you wanted me to sell it?" Zhuowen, the young man, of course. Zhuowen of Zhuowen, Chunhui, Zhuowen, and Chunhui. As soon as Zhuowen's words came out, many people in the surroundings stared at the arrogant young man and Zhuowen with ridicule. In fact, many people had expected that Zhuowen would reject the offer in a disguised way. After all, 10,000,000 high-grade spirit stones was not a small amount. "You mean you don't want to sell it?" The arrogant young man also knew the purpose of Zhuowen's high price. He squinted his eyes and his voice became colder. "Since you can't afford it, then forget it. I'll take my leave." Zhuowen shook his head and no longer entangled with the arrogant young man. He wanted to leave, but the young man snorted and blocked in front of Zhuowen. "What do you mean by this? You can't afford it, so you want to take it by force?" Zhuowen's eyes flashed coldly and said indifferently. The arrogant young man looked down at Zhuowen and said, "I'll give you a chance. I'll buy the emperor weapon with 100,000 upper spirit stones. Otherwise, the desolate ancient city is not very peaceful. If you accidentally die here, then the loss will outweigh the gain. Are you threatening me?" Zhuowen's eyes became colder. This young man thought too highly of him. He dared to threaten him. "I advise you to give this broken emperor weapon to young Master Yuansheng. He's the third prince of the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty. His status is high and noble. It's your honor to give it to young Master Yuansheng." The enchanting woman called Chun Hui swayed her slender waist and came to the side of the arrogant young man. She snorted at Zhuowen. Her voice was so soft that it made people's hearts itch. "It's the prince of the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty. I didn't expect to meet him in the desolate ancient city. The third prince of the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty must have come for the outer court exam of the Divine Academy. Not only the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty, but the other 3 holy dynasties and the 3 major sects have also sent their own powerful geniuses to participate in the exam." As soon as the words of the enchanting woman came out, the whole place burst into an uproar. As one of the 7 most powerful forces in the Eastern land, the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty's prestige was deeply rooted in people's hearts. At the same time, many people's gazes gathered on Zhuowen. The identity of the arrogant young man was obvious. Would this young man compromise in the face of the Yaoguang Holy Dynasty's prestige? The arrogant young man, Yuansheng, and the enchanting woman, Chun Hui, were enjoying the envious gazes of the people around them. Then, they stared at Zhuowen with bright eyes. They knew that the young man in front of them would definitely obediently hand over the broken emperor weapon after knowing their identity. Unfortunately, Zhuowen only glanced at the arrogant young man and the enchanting woman indifferently and spat out a word, "Scram." The arrogant young man and the enchanting woman's faces froze at the same time. Even many people around them were stunned. They didn't expect that Zhuowen would still ask them to scram after the arrogant young man revealed his identity. The indifferent man who sold the broken spear also looked at Zhuowen with interest. He agreed with Zhuowen's performance because in a sense, his character was very similar to Zhuowen's. Good. You have guts, but people like you won't live long. The arrogant young man was so angry that he laughed. Zhuowen had really touched his bottom line. He wanted this kid to suffer a fate worse than death. Boom! A terrifying aura gushed out. The arrogant young man stared coldly at Zhuowen as if he was looking at a dead man. The aura of a golden venerable. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He was a little surprised by the cultivation of the young man in front of him. The arrogant young man was young, about 23 years old. His cultivation had already reached the golden venerable realm. He was very talented. Just the cultivation of the third prince of the Yaoguang sacred dynasty was far superior to the number one genius of the Yanxian dynasty, Mo Lingtian. It seemed that the foundation of the Yaoguang sacred dynasty was much deeper than the Yanxian dynasty. Reckless brat. If you had sold the broken emperor weapon in your hand at the beginning, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, now that the third prince has taken action, you won't be able to keep the emperor weapon in your hand. Even your life will be lost. The enchanting woman crossed her arms in front of her chest and sneered. The moment the arrogant young man released his aura, Zhuowen was already a dead man in her eyes. The arrogant young man's cultivation should be at the early stage of the golden venerable realm, while Zhuowen was at the middle stage of the venerable realm. Although there was a huge gap between their cultivation, Zhuowen wasn't afraid. It wasn't as if Zhuowen hadn't killed a golden venerable realm cultivator before. Why would Zhuowen be afraid of the arrogant young man? It's too late for you to repent now. I gave you a chance before, but unfortunately, you didn't cherish it. So, I'll send you on your way. After saying that, the arrogant young man blasted out a palm. Terrifying yuan force poured out and formed a terrifying gale around him. A huge yuan force palm slammed down, trying to kill Zhuowen. Kacha! However, when the palm made of yuan energy was about to approach Zhuowen, it actually strangely collapsed and shattered into countless fine powder. The arrogant young man snorted and retreated. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His hands trembled and the web between his thumb and forefinger cracked. The arrogant young man slowly turned his head and stared at the indifferent man not far away. He said, "Senior, what's the meaning of this? Why did you stop me?" Obviously, this scene was beyond everyone's expectations. All eyes were fixed on the indifferent man. No one had expected him to stop the arrogant young man. I sold that damaged emperor weapon to this little brother. Now you're openly snatching it in front of me. What do you think of me? Said the indifferent man indifferently. The arrogant young man's eyes narrowed and were filled with anger. What? Do you think I'm doing something wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable? Asked the indifferent man again. His voice was getting colder and colder. The arrogant young man was stunned. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "I wouldn't dare." The indifferent cultivator in front of him was a high-level emperor. Even the Alcade Holy Dynasty didn't dare to offend him. How could he offend him? "If you don't dare, then get lost." "Don't bother me," said the indifferent man. The arrogant young man's eyes flashed. He stared coldly at Zhuowen and said, "I'll spare your dog life today. If I see you again, I'll take your dog life." After saying that, the arrogant young man led the enchanting woman and the others away from the stall. Zhuowen stared indifferently at the arrogant young man and the others. Then, he said respectfully to the indifferent man, "Senior, thank you for helping me out." The corners of the indifferent man's mouth rose and he said meaningfully, "Perhaps my actions just now were unnecessary." Zhuowen was stunned. Then, he laughed dryly and said, "Senior, you must be joking. I'm just a venerable. I can't be Yuancheng's opponent. If Senior hadn't helped me, I might have died." "Not necessarily." The indifferent man shook his head. Suddenly, he transmitted his voice to Zhuowen, "You're Zhuowen, right? Although you used a secret technique to change your appearance, you can't hide it from me." Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He stared at the indifferent man and replied warily, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" "You can call me Jianmu. We'll meet again soon. But to be honest, after seeing you, I'm very disappointed because you're too weak." Jianmu's voice was filled with disappointment. It rang out in Zhuowen's head, and then a terrifying strand of sword qi surged out from Jianmu's body. Subsequently, it formed a huge sword that was several meters long beneath Jianmu's feet. Stepping on the huge sword, Jianmu turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the endless sea of misery in front of the desolate ancient city. Chapter 949. Follow Boom. Boom. When Jianmuyu's sword arrived above the Sea of Bitterness, the pitch-black Sea of Bitterness actually churned with monstrous waves that appeared high up in the sky. In an instant, the entire desolate ancient city darkened because of such a monstrous wave. How terrifying! Just the monstrous waves of the Sea of Bitterness possess such terrifying destructive power. Can Jianmu pass through the monstrous waves? Looking at the monstrous black waves that covered the sky, Zhuowen's face turned pale and his body trembled. The power of the Sea of Bitterness was beyond his imagination. He knew that if he faced the monstrous black waves, he would definitely die. "Break!" A thunderous voice came from the sky above the huge wave. Jianmu's eyes were cold as he pointed the sword finger of his right hand at the void. The void behind him shattered inch by inch, and a huge sword that was hundreds of feet long shot out from the spatial crack. There were countless sword qi around the giant sword, and the sword chime was loud and clear. The giant sword slashed the void, and then the monstrous waves of the Sea of Bitterness were split into two by the powerful sword attack, and they disappeared. Jianmu did not stop at all. Amidst the countless shattered water droplets, he turned into a stream of light and instantly disappeared into the distance of the Sea of Misery. Everyone in the desolate ancient city raised their heads to look at the shocking scene. They were all stunned. It was too terrifying. The Sea of Bitterness that everyone feared was like an ordinary sea in front of Jianmu. With a slash of his sword, the monstrous waves were annihilated. The Sea of Bitterness was unable to stop Jianmu. Is this the power of a high-level Emperor realm expert? That slash is so terrifying. Even Emperor Qing would fall in front of that slash. Zhuowen was also dumbfounded as he stared at the scene above the Sea of Bitterness. His heart was unable to calm down for a long time, but he was even more confused. This was because Jianmu had sent him a voice transmission before he left. Jianmu is definitely a monstrous genius. He looks to be around 27 years old, but he has already reached the high-level Emperor realm. Moreover, he is most likely a sword cultivator. His combat strength is much stronger than other cultivators of the same level. Xiao Hei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Even Xiao Hei was full of praises for this Jianmu. It seemed like this Jianmu was really something. But brat, how did this Jianmu know you? To him, you're just an ant-like existence, yet he was able to recognize you with a single glance. Moreover, the words he said before he left were also somewhat baffling. Xiao Hei suddenly asked. Zhuowen shook his head. He was even more puzzled than Xiao He. A high-level Emperor realm expert like Jian Mu was an existence he had to look up to. Moreover, Jian Mu was definitely a genius from the Nine Netherworld realm. It was just that Zhuowen had never been to the Nine Nether realm, nor did he know any martial artists from the Nine Nether realm. The fact that Jian Mu recognized him was indeed a little inconceivable to Zhuowen. When I have the opportunity to enter the Nine Nether realm, I'll naturally meet Jian Mu again. At that time, all the mysteries will be solved. It's useless to think about it now. Zhuowen shook his head and didn't dwell on this issue. Instead, he took advantage of the time when everyone's attention was on the Sea of Agony to quietly leave and come to this stall. Although the Emperor weapon he bought was incomplete, he couldn't rule out the possibility that some people might want to snatch it from Zhuowen when they saw that his cultivation wasn't strong enough. Therefore, in order to avoid trouble, Zhuowen decided to leave this place as soon as possible. Zhuowen's thoughts were naturally good, and he was extremely cautious when he left. Unfortunately, he was still targeted by some people with ulterior motives. Brat! You're being targeted. Xiao He's indifferent voice rang out in his mind. I know, but how many people followed me? How strong are they? Zhuowen asked cautiously. Xiao He chuckled and said, there are 4 people. 2 of them are at the peak of the sovereign realm, and the other 2 are at the early stage of the golden venerable realm. It shouldn't be too difficult for you, right? Zhuowen shrugged, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He was already so careful, but there were still people who wanted to snatch it from him. Then, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. First, lead them to a more remote corner. After all, it's not convenient to kill them in a crowded place. Xiao He said indifferently. Zhuowen nodded and walked in front silently. He specifically walked towards some of the more remote alleys. Dozens of meters behind Zhuowen, 4 figures followed closely behind Zhuowen. This brat is really courting death. He actually walked towards these remote corners. Isn't he forcing us to snatch the treasure? One of the 4 people behind him, a man with triangular eyes and a gloomy gaze, said to the other 3 people beside him in a low voice. Don't talk too much. Keep a close eye on him. If this brat escapes, don't even think about living. A burly man glanced coldly at the triangular-eyed man and snorted. The latter quickly lowered his head and did not dare to speak. The burly man in front of him was one of the 2 strongest among the 4 of them. He was at the early stage of the golden venerable realm. After being reprimanded by the burly man, the triangular-eyed man lowered his head and did not dare to speak again. However, as he lowered his head, his triangular eyes shone with a trace of resentment. Very quickly, the 4 of them arrived at the entrance of a rather dark alley. After walking forward and turning a corner, they discovered that Zhuowen's figure had actually disappeared. What's going on? We lost him. When the burly man looked at the empty alley in front of him, his eyes narrowed. Then, a trace of blood appeared in his eyes as he stared coldly at the triangular-eyed man behind him. It has nothing to do with me. Maybe that brat discovered us in advance and took the opportunity to escape. The triangular-eyed man quickly explained. The burly man walked slowly to the triangular-eyed man and lifted him up. He said coldly, if you didn't talk too much, would we have lost him? I said that if we lost him, you will pay with your life. A murderous intent radiated from the burly man's eyes. The triangular-eyed man in his hand trembled and begged for mercy, spare my life. I am willing to atone for my crime and find that brat. Atone for your crime? What a joke. Now that we have lost him and we don't know who he is, how are you going to find that brat? The burly man smiled coldly. Then, Yuan power spurted out from his right hand. The triangular-eyed man's eyes were filled with fear. He could not resist at all and his entire body exploded into a bloody mist under the terrifying Yuan power. Swoosh! The moment the burly man killed the triangular-eyed man, an air-rending sound swept over and a terrifying smell of blood filled the entire alley. The burly man sensed the air-rending sound behind him and an ominous feeling rose in his heart. Then, he swung his right arm and spurted out yuan power in an attempt to block the air-rending sound behind him. Puchi! A severed arm soared into the sky as blood spurted out. Then, the burly man screamed as he held his severed right arm and retreated. His eyes were filled with horror as he stared at the figure that was rushing over from behind. A tall and straight figure slowly walked over with a bloody spear in his hand. Waves of bloody aura surrounded his body, causing his figure to be faintly discernible. "It's you." The burly man quickly recognized that the faintly discernible figure within the bloody aura was Zhuowen, whom they had been chasing all this time. Originally, they thought that Zhuowen had already escaped. They did not expect that he had hidden himself and wanted to kill them. The other two slowly approached the burly man as they looked at Zhuowen with greed in their eyes. They knew that there was a damaged emperor weapon in Zhuowen's spirit ring. Moreover, from the way that Zhuowen had bought the damaged emperor weapon, they could tell that he was quite wealthy. Without a doubt, Zhuowen was a fat sheep in their eyes. The burly man stopped the blood from flowing out of his severed arm as he stared at Zhuowen and coldly said, "You've got guts. Not only did you not escape, you actually dared to turn around and kill me. A mere mid-stage supreme being was actually able to sever my arm. You should be proud of yourself. However, the price you have to pay is your life." As soon as he finished speaking, the sturdy man stomped his foot. Terrifying origin energy poured out, causing the entire ground to shake violently. Subsequently, the sturdy man shot towards Zhuowen like a bullet at an extremely fast speed. A mere supreme being brat had actually severed his arm. This was undoubtedly a humiliation to him. Therefore, this brat had to die. Moreover, he had to die an ugly death. That's right. The price to pay is your life. Unfortunately, it's not me, but you guys. Zhuowen smiled indifferently as surging flames of the sun surged out from his body. Then, the huge blazing divine sun cauldron floated above his head. Before the burly man could even react, he was enveloped by the flames of the sun. Royal rank spirit treasure. Who is this brat? He actually has a royal rank spirit treasure. When the other two saw the burly man wrapped in the flames of the sun, their faces were filled with shock. They actually had a faint intention of retreating. If it was an ordinary supreme being, they would naturally be able to capture him easily. However, this Zhuowen actually had a royal rank spirit treasure on him. Moreover, the grade of this royal rank spirit treasure was obviously not low. They knew that it was impossible for them to snatch the spear from this brat. Did I allow the two of you to leave? Zhuowen also noticed the intention of retreating in the eyes of the other two. His cold voice slowly rang out. Then, a huge three-legged jade cauldron that was dozens of feet long flew out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows. A loud dragon roar resounded from the jade cauldron. A wool. A huge dragon's might swept out from the jade cauldron. A total of 81 strands of dragon's might appeared and intertwined with each other, blocking the path of the two cultivators who wanted to escape. After being nurtured by the supreme dragon cauldron for a long time, the power of these 81 strands of dragon's might was much more terrifying than before. Perhaps even a golden supreme being would find it difficult to break through the encirclement of the dragon's might. Kill! Zhuowen coldly ordered. The 81 strands of dragon's might roared towards the sky and attacked the two cultivators inside. Chapter 950. Magic Pattern Sizzle. The sun's fire gradually subsided, and the corpse of the burly man also turned into ashes. Zhuowen's face was expressionless. With a stomp of his foot, he disappeared like a ghost. Without stopping, Zhuowen returned to the inn that Emperor Yan and the others had booked. In the inn, Yan Di and the others were not there. They had probably gone out. After all, the desolate ancient city was extremely vast, and there were many things inside. There were many strong cultivators, and it was the first time they had come to the desolate ancient city. Naturally, they wanted to see it. Moreover, Zhuowen guessed that Imo Lingtian and the others would definitely go to the street he had just gone to. After all, there were many experts who had set up stalls there. Perhaps they could find some treasures there. Zhuowen was the best example. The damaged emperor weapon he had found actually contained terrifying demonic runes. The demonic runes were extremely powerful, and would most likely be of undeniable benefit to his cultivation of the Tao, entering the Tao through the devil. When he returned to his room, Zhuowen also found that Xiang Tianzuan and the other 4 people who lived next door were nowhere to be seen. They probably couldn't bear the loneliness and went out. However, Zhuowen did not blame them at all. Although he controlled the soul imprints of Xiang Tianzuan and the other 4 and made them his slaves, Zhuowen did not restrict their freedom because of this. For the 5 of them to be able to cultivate to the celestial venerate level, there was no doubt that their talents were strong. Moreover, the physical body that Xiao He had reconstructed was also of good quality. Zhuowen believed that the 5 of them would definitely be able to improve their cultivation. Therefore, Zhuowen allowed the 5 of them to do as they pleased. If he restricted the 5 of them, it would affect their mental state and cultivation. After returning to his room, Zhuowen took out a praying mat from his spirit ring. After which, he slowly sat on it and began to meditate. Only after his aura had completely stabilized did Zhuowen take out the damaged emperor weapon. Just now, when I was in the stall, the patterns on the spear transformed into a terrifying demonic pattern in my mind, causing the Buddha demon eye to react strangely. I don't know if I can do it again. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he muttered. Xiao He lazily stood on Zhuowen's shoulder and said indifferently, "Why don't you try and find out?" Nodding, Zhuowen's right hand pointed between his eyebrows. Suddenly, the Buddha demon eye that was hidden in his sea of consciousness emerged from between his eyebrows. At this moment, the Buddha demon eye was actually trembling violently. Originally, the Buddha demon eye was golden on the left and black on the right. At this moment, it was actually faintly shrouded by a pitch-black color, turning into an incomparably black demonic eye. Waves of terrifying demonic aura surged out from the demonic eye. The moment the demonic eye appeared, the pattern on the spear in Zhuowen's hand was suddenly dyed black. The originally blurry pattern became clearer and clearer, and finally, the pattern turned into a demonic rune. Boom! A terrifying demonic aura leaked out from the demonic rune. Then, the demonic aura turned into a black beam of light and soared into the sky from Zhuowen's room. It wanted to break through Zhuowen's room. Not good. We can't let this demonic light beam out. Otherwise, Zhuowen's room will definitely attract countless experts. At that time, Zhuowen will be finished. Xiao He's expression changed greatly. She stomped her feet and waved her little claws. Suddenly, a pitch-black energy surged out from Xiao He's claws and turned into a black barrier in the room. Boom! The demonic light beam soared into the sky and immediately slammed into the barrier in the room. When the two collided, there was a violent vibration. The barrier that Xiao He had set up trembled faintly. It was on the verge of collapse, as if it was going to collapse at any time. Damn it! Block it for this dragon lord. Xiao He's eyes were cold. She waved her little claws again and wisps of pitch-black energy surged out. The barrier in the room became even thicker and finally blocked the restless black beam of light. What a powerful demonic rune! After the baptism of time, the residual power on the demonic rune is still so terrifying. Who exactly is the owner of this spear? Xiao He stared at the spear in Zhuowen's hand in shock. Her eyes were filled with seriousness. Zhuowen also heaved a sigh of relief. When he thought of the demonic light beam that had rushed out of the room, Zhuowen did not dare to imagine the consequences. This was the ancient desolate city, where experts were as common as clouds. There were countless heavenly venerables, and even Emperor realm experts were not rare. If he had made a big commotion, he would undoubtedly be courting death. Even if Zhuowen had many trump cards and 5 heavenly venerables, he would still be finished. After a moment of lingering fear, Zhuowen began to examine the spear in his hand. At this moment, the demonic aura in the demonic eye was surging. The demonic aura enveloped the entire spear as if it was looking for something. Kid. This spear actually contains demonic runes. I'm afraid it's an extremely terrifying demonic weapon. A demonic weapon with demonic runes is much stronger than an ordinary emperor weapon. The owner of this demonic weapon is definitely an extremely powerful demon emperor, Xiao He said solemnly. Demon emperor? Demonic weapon? Zhuo Wen's pupils shrank as he muttered to himself. The so-called demon emperor was actually a title given to martial artists who cultivated the demon Dao to the emperor realm. Generally speaking, martial artists who cultivated the demon Dao were much stronger than ordinary martial artists. For example, Demon Dao Master cultivated the ice-cold demonic path. He was only at the initial stage of the heavenly venerate realm, but he had the strength of a peak heavenly venerate. His combat strength was extremely terrifying. As for martial artists who cultivated the demonic Dao, once they advanced to the sovereign realm, they would be able to become demon emperors. Moreover, martial artists who could become demon emperors were basically invincible existences in the same realm. Their combat strength was terrifying. However, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Demonic cultivators obtained strength that was far stronger than ordinary cultivators of the same realm, but at the same time, the difficulty of advancing was several times more difficult than ordinary cultivators. Therefore, the number of demonic cultivators who advanced to become demon emperors was very small. Once they advanced to become demon emperors, their strength would reach an extremely terrifying level. It was enough to make people tremble in fear. In the eastern lands, although Zhuowen had heard of the legends of demon emperors, he had never heard of a demon emperor becoming a saint. This was because demonic cultivators were too heaven-defying. The difficulty of becoming a demon saint from a demon emperor was dozens of times more difficult than ordinary cultivators becoming saints. Moreover, there were many tribulations. It was because of these many restrictions that the number of demonic cultivators in the heavenly armor continent was very small. Demon Dao Master was not a complete demonic cultivator. He had only explored a little bit of demonic cultivation. At most, he could be considered half a demonic cultivator. It was said that every generation of demon emperors shocked the world and fought against the world. The emperor weapons used by demon emperors would also be endowed with demonic patterns by heaven and earth. Therefore, the demon weapons wielded by demon emperors were far more terrifying than ordinary emperor weapons. Can the demon eye repair this demon weapon? Looking at the demon weapon shrouded in billowing demon chi, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a hopeful look. Dream on. This demon weapon has already been damaged to this extent. Even if the demon emperor were alive, he would not be able to repair it completely, Xiao He said coldly. Zhuowen frowned slightly and said, then what is the demon eye doing? Xiao He's eyes were solemn. She came above the demon eye and carefully examined it. Then, she said in surprise, I'm afraid the demon eye intends to extract the demonic patterns from this demon weapon. These demonic patterns are a powerful imprint condensed by the demon emperor when he was alive. They contain extremely terrifying demon chi, which is very beneficial to the demon eye. Extract the demonic patterns? Zhuowen was startled. His eyes were fixed on the demon eye's actions. Buzz. A buzzing sound resounded. This buzzing sound came from the demon weapon shrouded in demon chi. The sound contained a strong sense of sorrow. Demon weapons were supposed to show their value in endless slaughter. However, after countless years, they had lost their master and their drive. They had fallen into depravity in the dust of time. Until today, they had been awakened by the demon chi. give me the demonic patterns and I will help you conquer the world again. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he muttered to the demon weapon shrouded in demon qi. At the same time, he used his mind to control the demon eye to release more and more demon qi. Woo woo woo, the wailing sound became louder and louder. The demon weapon began to hesitate. The demonic patterns were its life and its core. Could it trust the human in front of it? Do you understand demons? A sorrowful voice slowly sounded from the demon weapon. Do you think I don't understand demons? Zhuowen muttered to himself. Immediately, blood qi wrapped around Zhuowen. Then, Zhuowen turned into blood-red hair and eyes. Waves of demon qi surged out of Zhuowen's body. At this moment, it was as if Zhuowen had turned into a great demon who would not stop killing. In my previous life, I cultivated Buddhism for 3 lifetimes. In this life, I have sought demons for 3,000 years. My demonic blood will burn the sky. I will betray the world but not myself. A faint voice came from Zhuowen's mouth. When the demon weapon heard this, it suddenly fell silent. Then, it let out a mournful wail. Then, a demonic pattern swept out from the billowing demon qi and imprinted on Zhuowen's right cheek. You have a heart that truly seeks demons. Moreover, you also have a demon eye. Perhaps you can really lead this demonic pattern to conquer the world again and let it reignite the demonic power of your previous life. A faint voice sounded. Then, the billowing demon qi slowly dissipated. After losing the demonic pattern, the rusty demon weapon crumbled inch by inch and turned into dust. Demonic pattern. Stroking the black demonic pattern on his right cheek, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He did not expect the demon weapon to give the demonic pattern to him in the end. What was even more unexpected was that the demonic pattern had directly imprinted on his right cheek. What a rich demon qi! This demonic pattern actually contains such terrifying demon qi. Zhuowen only felt a burning sensation on his right cheek. Then, waves of terrifying demon qi burrowed into Zhuowen's sea of consciousness, causing Zhuowen's pupils to involuntarily turn pitch black. Kid! Control the demon eye to absorb this demon qi. Xiao Hei's anxious voice sounded. Zhuowen also came back to his senses. With a quick thought, the demon eye floating in front of Zhuowen turned into a black light and burrowed into the depths of Zhuowen's brow. At the same time, the demon qi that had spread into Zhuowen's sea of consciousness was also absorbed by the demon eye. In an instant, the pressure on Zhuowen decreased significantly. This demon eye was indeed powerful. It could actually contain so much demon qi. Perhaps I can use the excess demon qi to cultivate the path of demons. Chapter 951. Sea of Misery Tsunami Sizzle. With the help of the demonic patterns, Zhuowen planned to attack the second layer of the demonic Tao. He knew that once he grasped the second layer of the demonic Tao, his strength would be far more terrifying than before. Moreover, in his demonic state, he could borrow a portion of the blood demon's strength, and this portion of strength could be completely controlled. The second-level demonic Tao Zhuowen was in truth comparable to an Empyrean powerhouse. But, the side effects of falling into this demonic state were also obvious. That was that countless thoughts of slaughter would appear in his mind from time to time. These thoughts of slaughter were terrifying and powerful. Zhuowen. Sizzle. Zhuowen didn't care about the blood demon's curses at all. He just silently borrowed the blood demon's power and the demonic energy within the demonic patterns to begin breaking through to the second layer of the demonic path. The blood demon also discovered that the demonic Tao secret technique Zhuowen was cultivating was quite terrifying. He also noticed the demonic mark on Zhuowen's right cheek and the pair of blood-red eyes were filled with fear. At the same time, he also discovered that there seemed to be a powerful demonic eye in Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. How did this lad manage to obtain so many utmost treasures of the devil Tao in such a short period of time? The might of those demonic marks was torrential, and there was also that terrifying demonic eye. Not to mention, that secret skill of the devil Dao he cultivated. All of these were extremely rare items. To think that all of them would be obtained by this lad. Brat! Don't forget our promise. Didn't you say that you would set me free after you reached the Emperor realm? Now, you want to go back on your word and refine my power? The blood demon continued to clamor. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen sneered and said, "Blood demon, who is the one who went back on his word? Back when I was fighting with Emperor Qing, you took advantage of my weakness and tried to take over my body when I was severely injured. Since you are so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust." After the battle with Emperor Qing, Zhuowen knew that if he didn't have the blood inheritance seal, the blood demon might really be able to escape from the demon sealing green coffin. At that time, the blood demon would probably deal with Zhuowen first. Bastard! Back then, I sincerely wanted to help you. Emperor Qing was just an ant at the second layer of the Emperor realm. If you had let me out, I could have killed him in one move. However, you didn't know how to appreciate my kindness. Since you used the blood inheritance seal to forcefully borrow my power, aren't you harming others and yourself in the end? The blood demon said indignantly. His voice was filled with injustice, as if it was all Zhuowen's fault. Zhuowen sneered and ignored the blood demon's protests. Instead, he quietly cultivated. The blood demon was an ancient demon after all. He was cunning and ruthless, and would do anything to get his way. Zhuowen could not be bothered to trust him. After shouting for a while, the blood demon saw that Zhuowen didn't care about him at all. Hence, he quieted down and became silent. Time passed slowly. The sky, which was originally scorching hot, gradually darkened. It was as if a huge hand had suddenly covered the sky. Boom! A thunder-like sound rang out from Zhuowen's room. Then, Zhuowen slowly stood up. At this moment, his entire body was shrouded in a thick blood aura. His flowing blood hair hung down to his waist. Together with his blood-red eyes, he looked extremely demonic. Second layer demonic path. Zhuowen muttered with a smile. After half a day of cultivation, Zhuowen had finally cultivated to the second level of the demon path. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was still at the mid-stage of the sovereign realm, he believed that if he unleashed the power of the second level of the demon path, he would be able to instantly kill a golden venerable. His strength was comparable to a heavenly venerable expert. Slowly retracting the blood aura on his body, Zhuowen's blood-red hair and eyes turned back to black hair and eyes. At the same time, he put away the demon sealing green coffin. The demonic rune on Zhuowen's right cheek no longer surged with demonic aura. It was as if it had completely calmed down under the control of the demon eye. Although this demonic rune was given to him by the demon soldier, the power of the demonic rune was too profound. Zhuowen couldn't use it at all. Perhaps he would only be able to fully understand this demonic rune when he became an emperor. Only then would he be able to fully grasp its powerful power. Dong dong dong. Gentle knocks suddenly sounded on the door, followed by Xiang Tianzuan's voice, "Master, dinner is ready. His Majesty, the Flame Emperor, and the others are already waiting downstairs. Would you like to go down and eat?" Zhuowen responded and got up to open the door. He followed Xiang Tianzuan down the stairs of the inn. Although the inn wasn't big, it was still considered elegant. The first floor was filled with wine tables. Xiang Tianzuan led Zhuowen to a large round table. At the round table, the Flame Emperor, Mo Lingtian, Xian Xing, and the others were all seated. Zhuowen's other heavenly venerable servants were also at the table. The table was filled with sumptuous dishes, and the fragrance that wafted out made Zhuowen feel a little hungry. "Zhuowen, let's eat together." Mo Lingtian patted the empty seat next to him and smiled at Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded and smiled back. He sat down next to Mo Lingtian, and the others began to eat. At the table, everyone was talking loudly about what they had seen and heard in the ancient desolate city. Therefore, the atmosphere at the table was quite harmonious. Zhuowen listened to everyone with a smile. Zhuowen realized that the geniuses of the Yan Xian Empire weren't as hostile as the geniuses of the Qing Xian Empire. Even Zui Qingfeng didn't like Zhuowen, but he didn't deliberately make things difficult for Zhuowen. Perhaps it was because of the strength and influence that Zhuowen had displayed, but Zui Qingfeng wasn't as narrow-minded as Zhuowen had imagined. Brother Zhua, did you gain anything in the ancient desolate city today? Mo Lingtian suddenly asked Zhuowen. At the same time, the others at the table also focused their gazes on Zhuowen. Among the 5 places, Zhuowen's cultivation was similar to Mo Lingtian's. They were both at the sovereign stage, and he was also the youngest among the 5. It could be said that Zhuowen had a very high chance of entering the Divine Academy in the outer court assessment. Therefore, the Flame Emperor and the others valued Zhuowen. Zhuowen was stunned. Soon after, he spread out his hands and said, I went to the trading area in the south today, but I didn't get anything good. Zhuowen wouldn't blabber about the damaged emperor weapon. After all, it would attract the covetous eyes of many experts, and he didn't want to bring trouble upon himself. Everyone nodded their heads and didn't ask any further. After all, this was the privacy of others, and it would be rude to keep asking. Boom! Boom! Just as everyone was happily drinking and chatting at the table, a terrifying tremor spread throughout the entire ancient desolate city. The ground of the inn shook even more violently, and the tables toppled one after another. What's going on? Mo Lingtian asked in horror. Let's go. Let's go out and take a look. The Flame Emperor's expression was grave as he walked out of the inn and into the open space outside. Mo Lingtian and the others followed behind him. Not only the Flame Emperor's group, but all the warriors in the ancient desolate city also walked out of their respective residences. They were at a loss as to why the entire ancient desolate city would shake so violently. On the open space, a dense crowd had gathered. These people all looked up at the sky with shock in their eyes, as if they had seen something extremely terrifying. Zhuowen also looked up and immediately saw an extremely terrifying scene. The Sea of Bitterness, which was suspended thousands of miles in the sky, was raging. On the surface of the Black Sea, there were countless huge waves and tsunamis. They were like terrifying black dragons that surged into the sky and then came crashing down on the ancient desolate city. On top of the huge waves, there were pitch-black hurricanes. The terrifying hurricanes were like pillars that connected the heavens and the earth. They swept up the seawater of the Sea of Bitterness and swept towards the sky. The thick dark clouds in the sky were swirling under the effect of the hurricanes, forming a terrifying black vortex that swallowed the sky and covered the sun. Rumble. Waves of the Sea of Bitterness surged out and blasted on the light shield of the ancient desolate city, causing the ancient desolate city to tremble violently. Fortunately, the ancient desolate city's seal was extremely strong, and in the face of such a mighty tsunami, it actually withstood it. What a terrifying tsunami! Mo Lingtian, who was standing beside Zhuowen, looked up at the raging Sea of Bitterness. His mouth was slightly open, and his face was slightly pale as he muttered in a low voice. Zhuowen nodded in agreement. The tsunami was too terrifying. Zhuowen had no doubt that if he was in the middle of the tsunami, he would most likely die. If the tsunami surged into the ancient desolate city, most warriors would not be spared. However, the force behind the ancient desolate city is not simple. They can actually set up such a powerful seal. Zhuowen knew that although the Sea of Bitterness was powerful, the force behind the ancient desolate city was also extremely terrifying. A seal that could withstand such a terrifying tsunami was not easy to set up. Moreover, the seal covered such a wide area. He did not know how much material and manpower it took to set up this seal. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.